Just saying.
It's a lot, really. I mean, I'm not sure how many Republicans dole for, hey, let's fight this war on drugs, and then go to my private club and snort a line type thing,
right.
you know?
I feel like that's common. Sad, but it's common.
Dean Hill and Gleason. Law enforcement now reporting interstate wrecks. Still some lane restrictions around Highway 11 in Loudoun County because of that overnight fire. Did you know the National Fitness Center Court South, my club? I've been a member there 40 years, no joking. Want to get in shape and have some fun? We've got 8 locations in East Tennessee. National Fitness Center from the sky. I'm Pete Michaels.
Glenn Beck.
You now have the government going after Google and everyone else and saying, hey, work with us, work with us. You now have Zuckerberg saying, I want more government interference. I want more government regulation. You're starting to see that system of information merge now with the United States government. It is crazy what's going on. Weekday mornings at 10 on Talk Radio 92.3 and AM 760.
All kids dream about what they want to be when they grow up, but too many kids don't have the chance to realize their dreams because of a car crash, a fire, a drowning, or some other tragedy. Did you know that preventable injuries are the #1 cause of death for children in the United States? But the thing about preventable injuries is that they're preventable. There are little things we can do so kids can grow up to do big things. Learn more at safekids.org.
Real news, best news program in
$7.25. I was sweating back here. I had to hit the Facebook stuff to stop that audio real quick. Whew. Man, there's a couple songs where I was playing. I'm telling you, immediately would get me shut down.
OMG. All you have to do is put, I do not own the rights to this music.
Ross, I found
that is literally all you have to do.
It's much more enjoyable for me, though, to just be able to say this every single morning that it's your fault.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you're over there, like, going crazy. Exactly. No, this is not my fault. It's your fault. You don't take the time, the 2 seconds to write it, and you'll never get kicked off.
It's sticking now, though, Roz.
Whatever.
Hey, Facebook, we got that up and running now. Real News Radio. Just type in that in your Facebook search bar. Real quick recap, just because Facebook might have missed the first segment there. 2 local stories I wanted to come over cover today, and then I'm going to get into a story that Roz sent me here, at least for the next 5 minutes. First one coming from Tennessee Star. State Senate fails to recall heartbeat bill. Basically, what that means is it's done for this legislative season. If we had any hopes of figuring out this heartbeat bill, it's somewhat tarnished. Is that the best way to put it?
So they're not passing it now.
No, they're not passing it now. I don't know if they'll ever pass it. I don't know if this was like a moral win for them or moral motivation. I'm not sure what it was for the Tennessee legislature.
I mean, this is Tennessee. I don't get why it didn't pass.
No, I agree. I do. I mean, I totally agree. I at least
if any somewhat morals are going to stick in the United States of America, like I would hope Tennessee would definitely be one of them.
No, I mean, come on, we're the buckle of the Bible Belt, right? Are we not? I mean, that's kind of what Roz is saying is if it's going to stick anywhere for regardless of your reason, I don't know. It doesn't matter.
I get it in California, Orlando, or Florida, period. But New York, all that. I get that. But
yeah. I mean, all you're really saying, I suppose, is if you have support of the majority of women on this issue, which I think you probably would in Tennessee as it pertains to a heartbeat bill, they would think it would go through. Well, legislators saw otherwise. I mean, there was obviously some protesters there, but whatever. So that may be dead. Senator Mark, we may have on here talking about this. The other issue I brought up, which I think might be even more controversial. That's a bad way. I didn't finish that sentence. Not that it would be more controversial. I just think my opinion on this would probably be more controversial for the Real News audience to hear than the first story. That second story being for the Real News Facebook audience. Headline, Knox County may reportedly prevent taxpayers from seeing police videos. Knox County may reportedly prevent taxpayers from seeing police videos. The way this essentially works out is if you have a criminal prosecution going on, if there's still an appeals process to go, or if the prosecution itself is still going on, basically saying if it's still in court to some extent or about to be in court or they predict it will be in court at some point, it has to wait until about a year after all those processes are done, or process C or process I, whatever the plural process is. All that stuff has to be done for about a year, and then they'll release the police video. If you want to talk about either one of those issues, 865-888-TALK, 865-888-8255, or just let me know what you think about either one of those in Facebook there. Let's go to this story that Roz sent me last night. And this leads a little bit into the national stories the Democrats are wanting to talk about. It's going to be a hard transition, but I'll make it work here. Here's the headline, independent.co.uk. Anti-LGBT politician resigns after being caught. Let me let the audience fill in the blank there. I'll let it pause for a second.
Why?
Because I'm pretty.
What are you doing?
I just want to see the how well these real news audiences have been following along, and I want to get a sense of their predictive programming of they could be able to fill in this blank. Someone on Facebook's going to tell me an anti-LGBT politician resigns after being caught doing what? I'm sure somebody Facebook in 2 seconds is going to be like, oh, yeah, probably hooking up with a guy, right? Yes, yeah, that's what the story is. That's what the story is. I don't know what else the headline could be. Anti-LGBT politician resigns after being caught having sex with a man in his office. An Ohio lawmaker who routinely touted his Christian faith and anti-LGBT views has resigned after being caught having sex with a man in his office. This individual's name is Wes Goodman. He's a Republican state legislator for Ohio, married to a woman who is the assistant director of an annual anti-abortion rally known as March for Life. The right-wing legislator who pushed, quote, family values was reportedly witnessed having sex with a man inside his office who was not employed by the legislator. Maybe a little bit early to get into the story, but like I said, it's transitioned nicely into sort of the, I guess, should we say underlying hypocrisy? I mean, I'm not necessarily sure. Roz, what's your initial take on at least just reading the headline alone?
I mean, it's funny because it's not surprising. But it's pastors too, and it's priests, and it's it's other people who hold themselves high. Now, I'm not saying all. I'm just saying that we've heard so many stories with other authoritarians or whatever that word is, like that. You know what I'm saying? I don't find it surprising.
Well, and it just seems to be, especially in a day and age right now where the left and the right are constantly struggling and re-struggling, if I can coin a new term, for regaining the moral high ground, right? The sting of hypocrisy feels a little bit worse when it's coming from the supposed moral writer.
It's about followers, it's about votes, it's about things like that to get people on their side. And look at what I'm doing, and I'm good morally, and I have these values, and I put them all in place. Well, you don't.
Yeah.
It's just as easy as that. You don't.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, we hear this so often. It's just, there's another one.
I know, and I'm struggling. I don't know. You obviously can find, like Ross said, the same issue with pastors. Who was that pastor, y'all, back in the day? Someone on Facebook's going to tell me his name. He was like a major televangelist. Obviously outspoken against drugs, outspoken against the homosexual lifestyle, and I believe ended up being caught with a masseuse. Y'all fill in the blanks with the masseuse later on, but also smoking methamphetamines with a masseuse in his office or in a hotel room or something like that. Haggerty, was it Haggerty? Ted? I don't know. Someone on Facebook will tell me. But the idea, again, being that this stuff seems to be run fairly rampant on both sides, and it does a strong disservice, I believe, to the overall message, the overall image. It's really frustrating for the ideal itself when someone on the left can immediately point to, what about that guy, right?
Okay, but look at, let's say, there's some people that go to church, and I don't care what denomination. I'm not pinpointing anybody out of the crowd, but say you go to church and, you're this great person, but really, and you can be this huge judgmental person behind closed doors, and when it comes down to it, and you have your own life, it's just what you try to portray out in the open for everybody else is for people to like you. That's the problem, is people care too much about what other people think about them. That's the whole problem. It really is, because they feel like they have to build this facade for people to be liked. Stupid.
Yeah. Well, it's not like, I don't know, maybe the guy would have been bold enough to come out to his wife and deal with that and come out to the public about his actual affiliation, his actual persuasion, if you will. I doubt that he would ever go that far, but he could have, I suppose, remained mum on this issue, how he personally felt about the homosexual lifestyle, or at least not been so Ted Haggard, I think is the guy's name they were talking about. Yeah. Teresa saying on Facebook, church doesn't make a person good. Look, I mean, honestly, that's what it comes down to.
Amen. Whoever that was. Amen.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. It really is. I think it's all about a facade. And I think a lot of, I know there's some good people out there that go to church and really try to listen to the message or go to mass or, whatever it is to actually get some fulfillment. I understand that. But then there's a lot of people that go to church so other people can see that they're at church.
Right. Well,
that's really what that comes down to. It's not that they want to go to church or they have this overwhelming sense of wanting to be with the Lord. No, it's just to be seen at church.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the most judgmental people I've ever met were at church.
And back to Teresa's comment of church doesn't make a person good. I think what she's ultimately touching on, at least for the way I would interpret that, is Americans in general have such a frustrating principle of their inability to separate faith from religion. And I personally think people must do that. I'm not saying I'm advocating for people to call themselves a Christian and not go to church. I would actually advocate for the exact opposite. I would advocate for, if you're not a Christian regularly attending church, maybe you should start thinking about regularly attending church, because there is an aspect of the other members of the congregation being able to hold you accountable, the other members of the congregation being to help you out in your sanctification process. But the aspect of just being affiliated with a religion itself is tainted and taintable, if that's even a word. Do you understand what I'm saying? The religion itself is malleable to the extent that the fallibility of man will eventually get involved. You pull the curtain back far enough on, I mark my words, I promise you, you pull back that curtain on any religion, any church in the world, in America, you are eventually going to find something that stings so much of hypocrisy, it may turn you off of the faith. I know that's a controversial thing to say, but the point I'm making is it is not the religion, it's not the structures, it's not anything that man has built that sanctifies you. It's the sacrifice itself. Do you know? That's why they call it a substitutionary atonement. A substitutionary atonement is the only thing, the only entity, the only individual that was either worthy enough of taking your place, of paying a particular price, has done so. And I'm talking philosophically. Of course, I mean the Christian aspect of paying for your sins. But in any given scenario, if a price must be paid and there is no way you can pay that price, there is nothing you can offer to pay that price, you need a substitutionary atonement of something or someone that can pay the debt. The debt has been paid. It is not the building that's paid that debt. It is not the community of the congregation that has paid that debt. And we have this frustrating reverse approach with American Christianity that you must be good first prior to entering the religion. In my mind, it is the marred individuals. It is the fallible individuals, right? That's who Christ was reaching out to. Am I wrong? Right. You know, now, yes, when you're in the church, sanctification is a thing, going closer to Christ, making your lifestyle.
How many people are really practicing what they learn at church through their everyday life?
I don't know.
Let's be honest.
I don't know. 7:36. I went real long on this. Sorry about that. Be right back.
Take me to church, I worship like a dog.
Oh! Yeah, I don't know what you do there, y'all. I mean, anytime that tends to happen with either a prominent religious figure or a prominent politician, you know, I don't know, man. Let me just ask y'all. What do you say? Get out of here. Watch. What do you say? If you're hang on.
Proponents of the bill gave him some benefits for Knox County, one of which is a promise of money needed for teacher pay raises here. Now the bill advances to the state Senate. It would allow parents in many Tennessee counties to use state money for a private school for their kids if they qualify. The man...
Sorry, I just want to hear that. Chris Mock. They not want myself, accountability and worship was an important aspect of the church. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it absolutely was. There's a few fundamental issues right now that I think cause denominational splits, and it seems to be that the issue of homosexuality is one in particular right now. Yeah, church ain't gonna get a person to heaven alone. Yeah, that's true. Gathering together with others who believe and trying it is not as important a Christian walk. Not that they won't mess up, but some accountability and corporate worship is an important aspect of the church. Yeah, right. Yeah. Let me ask you this way, all right? I'm trying to put this whole thing in perspective. All right, let's put it this way, okay? If a Republican senator at the national level during Bill Clinton's impeachment process, quiet headphones, during Bill Clinton's impeachment process was coming out and making strong advocation for being held morally accountable, right? If a Republican was, and this did happen, okay, Republicans were making a big push for this idea of there's an ethical standard that the president must abide by, and adultery is something that we simply cannot accept, right? Bill Clinton hooking up with an intern in the Oval Office, that alone is enough of a reason to start considering impeachment talk. That alone is enough of a reason to point towards Bill Clinton's own hypocrisy. Let's say that Republican senator or that Republican House member then got caught up in his own adulterous affair, and that was either leaked or revealed or made public or something. Would that feel as bad or as hypocritical as what I just reported on, as an anti-LGBT legislator being caught in a homosexual affair? You understand the question I'm asking? Obviously, what I'm trying to pose is, what are the societal standards for what considers to be unethical and immoral, as opposed to the biblical standards? Because most of the time when you find this, tell me if I'm wrong, most of the time when you find sexuality, especially in the New Testament, referenced as being something that would either be a sin or immoral, it's usually, or at least the ones that people typically point to, referenced within the same category as a litany of other sins. Now, I don't know whether you interpret that as meaning that they're on par with each other. I suppose all I'm saying is, if one's bad, it seems to be in God's eye the other one is bad as well. If one's a sin, the other one's a sin as well. I guess I'm wondering if I'm asking the question correctly, do we say the same thing, or do we feel the same way in public? Because even our own religious communities are struggling to determine that same issue. I mean, how many denominations of Christianity in America right now are not just open about accepting homosexual practices, but even homosexual leadership, homosexual pastors even? So they've made a very clear distinction between homosexuality is okay, adultery is probably still wrong. But I would venture to say, in a public level, most people would probably say it feels worse for an anti-LGBT Republican senator to be caught with another man than it does for a Republican senator who's preaching a monogamous lifestyle to be caught up in his own adulterous affair. Does that make sense? Am I rambling too much? It's early, y'all. Well, Heather, see, but it's interesting you bring that up. How do Christians address these issues? Leaders who fail, question mark. They don't condone it. They don't protect them. They call out sin when they see it, but show love while not participating. Well, Heather, let me ask you in all sincerity,
How do you do that when you're talking about homosexuality? How do you do that as a public figure when you're talking about homosexuality? Here's what I mean. It's fairly easy to call out adultery as a bad thing on both sides. I don't think most Democrats would have Everybody in the country had a problem with Tiger Woods was cheating on his wife, and he was a golfer. Democrats and Republicans alike, even if you didn't make it a political issue, left, right, progressive, liberal, Democrat, Republican, I don't know, libertarian, independent, doesn't matter. Most people in the country would have no problem with you calling out adultery and saying, hey, that's wrong. Even if you don't want to make it a spiritual issue, you made a social contract with that individual to be monogamous, you broke the contract, that's a bad thing. Now take that same principle and apply it to homosexuality. I'm telling y'all, as a public representative, am I wrong? It's a much different scenario. Not just to call it the homosexual issue. Let's say it's even homosexual adultery. I don't know. Obviously, you can tell I'm working through this myself right now, but especially in the church right now, I would have to think that maybe adultery is not the. Let's use fornication. Maybe that's a better one. Because that's an issue that hardly anyone ever really likes to touch. Two people that are not married, sleeping with each other, living with each other. How does the church address that as opposed to addressing a homosexual couple? These are all things I'm going to get in trouble for bringing up, which is why I probably shouldn't bring them up on air. But it's odd to say that politics is the safe realm right now, right? Yes, Eric, the show did start late on Facebook today. My Mevo camera was giving me the red ring of death. You remember that? Anybody have an original Xbox? Just red circles that just perpetually roll. We got it fixed, though. You didn't miss anything in that first segment, though. I recapped it all that second segment. $7:45 in the morning. Welcome,
Ladies and gentlemen. Man, I was getting in some heavy topics with Facebook off air. I don't know. I probably don't even repeat this on air, man. I'm, bringing up issues of how the church deals with issues. Let's say just issues in general. We'll leave it there. Oh man, Ross, can I get this computer going? If you listen to these little promos I do during the afternoons. The opening question that I started with yesterday, and I'll pose it again for the Real News audience, our guest back there in the studio, for Roz as well. With Trump's approval rating sinking right now, what are we down, 5, 6, 7 points in some polls after the Mueller report to come out? With Trump's approval rating sinking, I asked the audience the following question. Does anyone even care right now that Democrats are continuing to push for impeachment? I mean, look, I'm genuinely asking. The way I see this is that it's only going to work to their detriment. So should we just sit back and let it happen? I mean, I've said this before. Bill Clinton's highest approval rating he ever had at 72% was right before he was impeached. It's probably only going to work out to that. I don't want to hide the ball here too much because I'm going to go to Stimpy and Recode and Michael and probably make some points on what I was just talking about. I don't want to jump around topics too much here. But not only will the approval rating skyrocket, but you have to also look. I wanted to devote a lot of this today. I may push it to the 9 o'clock hour. CNN rolled out every single Democrat presidential candidate. And I'm telling y'all, when I said a couple months back, that we are on this deep dive to the bottom of the progressive cesspool right now, goodness gracious, y'all. My goodness. Who are these PR people that are just refusing to do their job for these Democrat presidential candidates? Oh, Mr. Henry, look how partisan you're being right now, you pro-Trump supporter. No, dude, come on, man. They asked Bernie Sanders the other night. Hey, caller in line 3, Crown Plaza call number. Hang on just a second. If you're not Stimpy or if you're not Recode Michael, I'm talking to you, whoever you are. We'll get your screen here in just a second. They asked Bernie Sanders the other night, hey, if you want to give convicted felons, the right to vote again while they're still in jail. Well, what do you do about the Boston bomber? What do you do about rapists? What do you do about mass murderers? Well, I think they should still have the right to vote. Look, I'm telling you, there's a reason why they call it the great franchise. That might be a legitimate dialogue to have in this country. The great franchise being the right to vote being something that's inherent to American citizenship, possibly even more than the Bill of Rights, okay? That is a historically founded argument, a historically founded conversation. A terrible answer. Goodness gracious. What are these people doing? While you're on the one hand pitching impeachment with, you've had 4 investigations already. The initial FBI investigation, the House investigation, the Senate investigation, and the 2-year-long Mueller investigation. What else are you going to find? All of it is just bad strategy. I don't care how you feel about it. It's just bad strategy to win. And this weird nihilistic approach the Democrats are taking now, where Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, and Bernie Sanders, the only one that wasn't supporting a convicted murderer's right to vote was Pete Buttigieg. They all come out and say, yeah, well, maybe the Boston bomber, it's a conversation we should have, or Bernie Sanders goes so far as to say, yeah, absolutely the Boston bomber should have a right to vote. Now, here's the very interesting thing, okay? Here's the really interesting thing. Who said that in Facebook? No, he didn't? I'm going to play it right now. Heather just said no, he didn't. All right, let me, hold on. Give me 2 seconds, Heather. Where is this? Yep, right to vote. Hannity, yep. Computer's good to go. This is great radio. 2 seconds. Here we go. Listen to this.
My father's family left Soviet Russia in 1979.
You would think that would set up the clips I was about to play. No. I love when a good joke just comes together organically in the show. Talking about felons' rights to votes, and I play something from Soviet Russia. No, here's the actual clip.
Yep, even terrorists like the Boston bombers. Can't make this up. Take a look.
You have said that you believe that people with felony records should be allowed to vote while in prison. Does this mean that you would support enfranchising people like the Boston Marathon bomber, a convicted terrorist and murderer?
But I think the right to vote is inherent to our democracy. Yes, even for terrible people. So I believe that people who commit crimes, they pay the price. When they get out of jail, I believe they certainly should have the right to vote. But I do believe that even if they are in jail, they're paying their price to society, but that should not take away their inherent American right to participate in our democracy.
All right, and I've already been clear about my stance on this. I've already told you that historically speaking, the great franchise, the right to vote, that's the reason why they call it the great franchise, is an inherent right for an American citizen, possibly even more than the Bill of Rights. That's my take, okay? It's a decent thing to present. But that answer is so... A 5th grader could have given you a better spin than that. Are you kidding me? You just directly respond to the obvious gotcha question of what about the Boston bomber who killed 3 people in this country and maimed hundreds more, however many he did. Yeah, give that guy the right to vote. So now the pitch for Democrats is, we want free college, we want free health care, $93 trillion Green New Deal. Oh, and by the way, we want terrorists to vote. It's too easy. It's too easy. I'm losing my mind here. If that's not enough, listen to this from Kamala Harris.
There are people in Washington, D.C., supposed leaders, who have failed to have the courage to reject a false choice, which suggests you're either in favor of the Second Amendment or you want to take everyone's guns away. Supposed leaders in Washington, D.C., who have failed to have the courage to recognize, you know what, you want to go hunting, that's fine. But we need reasonable gun safety laws in this country, starting with universal background checks and a renewal of the assault weapon ban.
Okay, you see where I'm going with this? Kamala Harris then asked about the idea of, hey, should felons have the right to vote? Yeah, I think we should consider it because it's an American right. What about the Second Amendment? What about the Second Amendment? And what if I were to ask the follow-up question to Bernie Sanders? Do you see how easy this is, man? And do you see how terrible of a job? I don't care how you feel about the issue. Just give me something better to play against, man. It's like the Patriots taking on a Pop Warner Football League here. It's just an absolute decimation. It's too simple. What if I were to ask the follow-up question to Bernie Sanders? Hey, you think felons should have the right to vote? What about a felon's right to have a gun? What do you do with that, Kamala Harris? There's an inherent right for an American citizen to vote. Oh, by the way, there's something called the Second Amendment, an inherent right for an American to own a gun. What do you do there? Clearly, you're not going to support a felon owning a gun. It's too simple. It's just terrible talking points. And I've already said I agree with the simple premise of the question. 7:52, hit this last break. Man, we got some calls. Be right back.
not going to support a felon owning a gun. It's too simple. It's just terrible talking points. And I've already said I agree with the simple premise of the question. 7:52, hit this last break. Maybe get some calls. Y'all understand what I'm saying now? Pete Buttigieg is the guy to watch out for. Just, man, it's like the Democrats want to push a federally mandated vaccine. If there was a vaccine for foot and mouth syndrome, just pump every Democrat presidential candidate full of that right now. Goodness, man. Am I wrong? How did no one see that? Do you feel what I'm saying? How did Bernie Sanders, a seasoned politician, a career politician,
Gets in there, he doesn't want his real name, and he's going to sit on red. He doesn't want to be on Facebook Live.
Use his name in promos or anything else at this point.
I know.
I've called him a student loan debt expert up until this point, so.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Well, sweet.
He's going to think of a name.
Man.
Okay.
The whole time. I'm a debt expert.
Okay, so talking Batman voice, okay?
I was going to sit on red, not yellow. All right, that's cool. That's cool.
So just make sure that it doesn't pick up.
Can we make a cool superhero name for him?
Yeah, I mean, that's cool.
Okay. I'll think of something.
All right.
Dead man. I don't know what. Well, I'll think of something better than that. Okay.
Guess what? Attractive people have a tendency to prosper. I'm not talking about physically attractive. I'm talking about attractive. Someone you like. Someone when you.
It's all so dumb. Also dumb. They don't believe the Second Amendment is right. It's a mistake by the Founding Fathers, even though they would have all supported slavery more. Yeah, Eric, you're probably right. And I guess what I'm stressing more than anything is just, man. All right, so I'm running for office, and someone basically asked me the question: do you support the idea of convicted terrorists having a right to vote in this country? Bro, if you don't see that as a gotcha question from 200 yards away, you shouldn't be in politics. I'm not saying you shouldn't answer the question. I'm not saying it's not a good question to ask. Just saying, someone should have prepped you better is all I'm saying. $7:56 in the morning.
Well, I'm not sure if I'm going to have time. We got 2 minutes left, really. I mean, literally, by the time I get you on here and I stop talking, finally, it's going to be 20 seconds each. I may have to push this into the 8-hour. Ross, can I get this computer going in here? All right, the Democrat that would be responsible for starting the conversation about impeachment, let's hear what he has to say.
I do believe that impeachment is one of the most divisive paths that we could go down to in our country.
That was a terrible setup because this is Nancy Pelosi, and that's not exactly correct what she just said, but she's the one everyone's going to have to respond to, so whatever, the analysis still fits.
But if the path of fact-finding takes us there, we have no choice. But we're not there yet. Congress will not be silent in terms of using our constitutional power to find the facts for the American people.
The Speaker today encouraging patience over how the Democrats in Congress should handle revelations in the Mueller report. Problem is, a lot of Democrats are running out of patience. And that's fueling tension within the party, especially between Democrats on Capitol Hill and the 19 or so Democrats who are running around the country running for president. In spite of the party split over impeachment, things are heating up for the president and some of those around him. Democratic leaders have launched a series of aggressive investigations, including as we mentioned, hauling in Don McGahn before the House Judiciary Committee. But tonight, the president tells the Washington Post, quote, he opposes cooperation with House Democrats who he claimed are trying to score political points against him. Our next guest is one of those Democrats and a proud product of Brooklyn, New York. Congressman Hakeem Jeffries sits on the House Judiciary Committee, and more importantly these days, he's the party guy in the House majority. He is chairman of the House Democratic Caucus. Congressman, thank you for coming on. How do you think you are going to decide whether or not to pursue impeachment, and is one way to just proceed with hearings that are, except for the title, impeachment hearings, but in name only?
Well, Speaker Nancy Pelosi has laid out a clear standard for how to proceed, and it's a standard that the overwhelming majority of the House Democratic Caucus embraces. That is, that the case for impeachment must be compelling, the evidence must be overwhelming, and public sentiment around impeachment must be bipartisan.
Does anybody buy that? Is anybody buying that? The case must be compelling. The evidence must be overwhelming. Really? Seriously? I'm trying to figure out where I should stand with this. I really am. I'm trying to figure out if because I know it's coming. I know they're going to keep pushing for it. I'm trying to figure out if Republicans should fight back against it. I'm trying to figure out if we even need to lend credence to this argument by simply validating that it's a real thing at all, or just call him moronic and just be done with it. 4 investigations, y'all. FBI, House, Senate, and Mueller. Almost 3.5 years, 4 if you really want to be honest about it. 7:59 news, traffic, weather, all that. Be right back.
Facebook. Let me let Alan Watts tell you the reason why everything happens. Are y'all ready for it? Are you ready for this?
Well, when you don't know what you want, you've reached the state of desirelessness. When you really don't know. But you see, there's a beginning stage of not knowing, and there's an ending stage of not knowing. In the beginning stage, you don't know what you want because you haven't thought about it, or you've only thought superficially. Then when somebody forces you to think about it and go through and say, yeah, I think I like this, I think I like that, I think I like the other, there's the middle stage. Then you get beyond that. Say, is that what I really want? In the end you say, no, I don't think that's it. I might be satisfied with it for a while, and I wouldn't turn my nose up at it. But it's not really what I want. Why don't you really know what you want? 2 reasons that you don't really know what you want. Number 1, you have it. Number 2, you don't know yourself, because you never can. The Godhead is never an object of its own knowledge. Just as a knife doesn't cut itself, fire doesn't burn itself, light doesn't illumine itself. It's always an endless mystery to itself. I don't know. And this I don't know, uttered in the infinite interior of the Spirit, this I don't know is the same thing as I love, I let go, I don't try to force or control. It's the same thing as humility. And so the Upanishads say, if you think that you understand Brahman, you do not understand, and you have yet to be instructed further. If you know that you do not understand, then you truly understand. For the Brahman is unknown to those who know it, and known to those who know it not. And the principle is that any time you, as it were, voluntarily let up control, In other words, cease to cling to yourself. You have an excess of power. Because you're wasting energy all the time in self-defense. Trying to manage things, trying to force things to conform to your will. The moment you stop doing that, that wasted energy is available. Therefore, you are, in that sense, having that energy available, you are one with the divine principle. You have the energy. When you're trying, however, to act as if you were God, that is to say, you don't trust anybody and you're the dictator and you have to keep everybody in line, you lose the divine energy. Because what you're doing is simply defending yourself. So then, the principle is, the more you give it away, the more it comes back. Now you say, I don't have the courage to give it away. I'm afraid. And you can only overcome that by realizing you better give it away because there's no way of holding on to it. The meaning of the fact, you see, that everything is dissolving constantly, that we're all falling apart, we're all in a process of constant death, and that the worldly hope men set their hearts upon turns ashes, or it prospers, and like snow upon the desert's dusty face, lighting a little hour or two is gone. You know, all that Omar Khayyam jazz. You know, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the great globe itself, I, all which it inherits, shall dissolve, and like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind. All falling apart. Everything is. That's the great assistance to you. See, that fact that everything is in decay is your helper. That is allowing you that you don't have to let go because there's nothing to hold on to. It's achieved for you, in other words, by the process of nature. So once you see that you just don't have a prayer, and it's all washed up, and that you will vanish and leave not a rack behind, and you rarely get with that, suddenly you find you have the power. This enormous access of energy. But it's not power that came to you because you grabbed it. Came in entirely the opposite way. And power that comes to you in that opposite way is power with which you can be trusted. Of course, what we've been talking about is not so much a set of ideas as an experience, or shall we say experiencing. And this kind of seminar, in comparison with encounter groups or workshops of various kinds, or experiments in sensory awareness, is now being called a conceptual seminar. Although I'm not talking about concepts. But the crucial question arises that
let me set this up now.
You don't mind I sit over here?
An understanding, a real feeling understanding
Usually like
of the polar relationship
I don't care, I'll sit over
between the individual and the
I'll
world
sit over here.
All right.
is something that operates, as we say, in your bones, and isn't just a view that you hold or a belief that you hold.
But whenever we get to the conversation of what do we do going forward, are there any like tricks of the trade, or people dealing with student loan debt now, or what's the first thing they should consider, or all that stuff, you know?
That's fine.
Yeah. I got this guy Recode Michael on hold. Probably take his question for just the first couple of minutes. Oh, let me ask Roz that.
Answer his question.
What do you do? You want to do with Recode Michael? You just want to answer, get him on for 5 minutes real quick, and then go into this, or yeah, okay. You don't have to use those headphones if you don't want to. If you do, that white knob there's the volume. And these microphones, by the way, they're super one-directional, so
I don't feel bad about getting like right up on them if you need
That's
to.
fine. Or I could say, my name is from Habib. I'm from India. I flew over here this morning.
That's good. Yeah.
We buy all that.
We'll trade gold for your debt or something, right?
You give me camels, I will give you.
Right.
Where's your co-host?
I don't really have a co-host anymore. I haven't had a co-host for probably 6 or 7 months, actually, maybe even longer than that. Shime was the original co-host. Nick, this whole semester, and pretty much most of the last semester, he's been out. Sort of just a contributor now at this point, but let's do it.
Hey, it's 8:08 in the morning, 8:08 in the morning. That's the time that it is right now. This is Real News. We are broadcasting live from the FMT Insurance Studios. Before we go to our great guest sitting directly next to me right now, his name is Student Loan Debt Expert. That's his name. That will be his name. He will have no other name. Student Loan Debt Expert. Before we go to him, let's go to Recode Michael on the Crown Plaza call number. By the way, this next topic coming up is not just your run-of-the-mill student loan debt conversation, man. We're not just taking a deep dive. We're going into issues that I would venture to say you probably have never heard these perspectives before, and it's issues that you desperately need to hear. Even if you don't have student loan debt, even if you've never struggled with student loan debt, I'm telling you, man, these are going to be national issues. These are going to be presidential issues. These are going to be election issues.
I feel like they know somebody who does. If you don't have it,
Right.
you know somebody who has student loan debt.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's very true. Yeah. I feel like we should do some giveaway raws for people to call in that don't have student loan debt. We could do like a Dave Ramsey, you know what I mean? Where people call in Dave Ramsey's, I'm debt free, and we can call into this show and say, hey, I don't have student loan debt, and I will
They do, like, the
excoriate
debt
you.
screen.
Yeah, but I will excoriate you for not having student loan debt, right? It would be the
Okay.
reverse Dave Ramsey calling and say, hey, I'm debt free from student. Get out of my show. Get out of here.
Well, anybody can call and say that they don't have student loan debt to win a prize.
I guess that's true. Anyways, that number is 865-888-TALK, 865-888-8255. With that being said, let's go to Recode Michael real quick. He hung through the break there. Hang through the break?
Good morning. How are you?
Recode Michael, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Well, I've lost count how many times the mayor and the city council have broken the law. I think we're on number 3. Yesterday, if they haven't already done enough with Recode, with deception and just outright lies, yesterday really took the case. On your Facebook page, you have the public notice of a special call meeting, which will be May 14th at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in the main assembly room of the city-county building, where they're going to vote on Recode. And, the Draft 5 isn't out. They promised there'd be a workshop on Draft 5. There's no mention of a workshop anywhere. This notice is signed by Mayor Madeline Recode Rojero. And basically, I took this document, and the way I got it, it was a PDF, so it was an image file. I scanned it into a text file, and I searched for the word Recode. It is nowhere in the document. So for 2.5 years, they've called this Recode. That's the brand name. But when they have the public notice on the emergency vote at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so no one can attend, the word Recode is not in the document. That is a sunshine law violation. Back in December of last year, they passed an emergency ordinance so they wouldn't have to notify the people on Recode. That was against the law. Then when they did notify the people on Recode, it wasn't a proper legal notice. That was against the law. So I guess strike 3, apparently there are no outs in city government. You break the law, nobody cares. So in the Knoxville News Sentinel, you would expect that there'd be a story on this, wouldn't you?
I would expect, yeah.
Would you expect it to be on any of the 3 major television stations?
Yeah, of course.
It is nowhere. So that's how we do government in this town.
Well, one thing I can validate what you're saying here, Recode Michael. I'm actually looking at an email right now. We're obviously in direct correspondence with at least some of the city council members. Richard Esparza sent one of the city council members an email on April 23rd asking this question during the last, this is again, April 23rd, 2019. During the last workshop, many proposed another. I guess that isn't going through, though, question mark. The response we got was correct, no more workshops. My thinking on this is that Recode has so many details and issues. Let's get it going and fixing these issues as we see the real-life implications. Most important to me is that it's a living document that will be added to, amended, and adjusted on a regular basis, just as zoning codes are now. So at least lending some validity to what you said before about the possibility of no more workshops. It seems like that has been established. Yeah, the last workshop has already been said and done.
Yeah, so they promised the workshop. They lied. This is Obamacare. Recode is not the issue. Representation is the issue. If you live in the city, you have no representation. The people that you elected to represent you have no concern for you. They don't care. They don't care about the law. They're trying to sneak this in the middle of the day when people are at work. And, this is interesting. As a Sunshine Law violation, it opens up the question, has Mayor Rohero made a mistake that could get her removed from office?
And real quick, Recode, Michael, I know no one really needs a refresher on this, but for some individuals that may be driving through the state right now, if you're a trucker driving through, if you're listening on an app, you don't live in Tennessee, Sunshine Law violation is something that I said before most people are aware of here. For those that aren't, real quick, 20-second recap. What do you mean? What if someone's saying, what does that mean that they're violating Sunshine? I don't understand that.
Okay, the Sunshine Law is a state law that is concerned with public notices. Okay, so whenever they have a vote, they have to have a public notice. Now, for 2.5 years, they have called the overhaul of the zoning, taking 60 years of zoning, completely scrapping it and writing a new zoning code. That brand name is Recode. Well, in this document, the word Recode is not used. They have gone to great lengths to make this completely something that cannot be understood by anyone other than an attorney. So that is a Sunshine Law violation. They're not telling people that they're voting on the overhaul of the zoning. That they put together this very obscure legally document to confuse people. Then they're going to hold the vote at 3 o'clock instead of 5 o'clock to make sure nobody can come there to question them. So, they haven't notified the people by proper legal notice. They tried to change the law back in December, and now they've put out another deceptive public notice. So this is the government you've got if you live in Knoxville.
And I can say as well, we do have confirmation that the initial vote is going to be on May 14th. If that vote runs over, it may continue on May 30th. This also might be an important date for people that are concerned about the Recode issue to pay attention to. Doesn't seem like you're getting much local coverage on this. We're trying to do the best we can here at Real News Radio. Council, with that being said, City Councilwoman Seema Singh Perez will be on this program at 9 on May 15th, the day after that vote goes through. So May 14th is the vote. May 15th, we're going to have City Councilwoman Seema Singh Perez on, I suppose, to give her take on this. And we got to...
One important thing, Mr. Henry. May 14th is the first reading.
Gotcha.
If it passes, when it passes on May 14th, there will be a second reading, and that's normally 2 weeks later. So call your city council member and let them know what you think. This is your government. Your government. They work for you. And this idea that this is going to be Obamacare, we have to pass it to see what's in it, we'll fix it later, this is a train wreck. If you own property in the city of Knoxville, you are getting screwed, you are being abused, your rights are being taken away. It's up to you to defend your rights.
Right. Hey, we got about a minute left here, man. I want to ask you on the way out. Be as honest with me as you possibly can. You just said when this passes. Is it done? Are we done? I mean, in practical response, is there anything that could possibly be done right now that you actually think might happen on by the populace's push or something to that effect that could do something here?
I think 300 people in there on May 14th, I think that they would probably not pass it. I think, look, they know what they've done. They know that they're breaking the law. They know it's wrong. They know people are upset. Now, if 50 people are there on May 14th, it'll pass unanimously. 300 people? No, they'll buckle. The thing is, they wouldn't do the things they're doing with all this deception if they had any real confidence. They're afraid of the people. If the people show up, it will not pass. If only a handful of people show up, well, I mean, you see, if they're willing to break the law, what are they not willing to do?
Yeah, no, I totally understand. The one I went to last time, I think, you were watching there as well, too. I think the body count that I had at highest was 52. At the lowest was probably around 45, something like that. And that was even, again, where they sort of took liberties to, hey, let's talk about stuff for 3 hours, and then we'll give the last sort of, say, 20, 30 minutes to people that want to ask questions.
Yeah, you saw how they abused the people that were there. And is this the type of government that anybody wants? I mean, have you ever seen anything so disrespectful? They lie right to our faces. And they seem to, first thing, Recode is a pitiful product. They're not going to straighten this out. Why should people that own property be penalized by this pitiful form of government?
I hear you.
Well, I appreciate your time this morning. And, folks, if you care about your rights, you better stand up for them.
I appreciate it, Recode, Michael. We always appreciate hearing from you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Hey, there you go. Again, one quick recap there. May 14th is when that vote's going down. You just heard Recode Michael talk about that. Councilwoman Singh Perez, at least we have her schedule right now, May 15th at 9 o'clock. Look, the Recode thing, we've talked about it as much as we possibly can. I feel like there was Roz and I have as much as we covered this on air, I'll tell you, we covered this on air, but for every 5 minutes we cover this on air, there's probably an hour worth of prep that I'm having to do, and Roz is having to get as well, contacting people to get on the show, talking with people about the issue. If I'm going to report on something, if I'm going to play the political pundit on something, I at least have to be up to speed enough to have some semblance of an idea as to what I'm talking about. So we've been inundated with this, and I know people are wanting this to have some sense of resolution on this. And I think what Recode Michael is saying, we are nowhere close to having a sense of resolution on this at all. We haven't even started the conversation towards getting us closer to that aspect. You may disagree with that. And you might, frankly, disagree with that. It seems like a lot of other publications around here do disagree with that stance. However, I'll say, at least from the people that are listening to this program, there's a lot of y'all out there. I know that. I don't know. Seems like we're all on the same page here. But 8:19 in the morning, hit this first break, come back with our great guest talking about student loan debt.
Sorry about that, man.
You're fine.
Oh. That's a cool remix. You know anything about that Recode stuff?
Vaguely a little about it. There's been some news on Inside Arm about it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Really?
I told John to tell you about that website because you know everything that's going on in the government.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I follow that pretty frequently. I just didn't know there was anything about Recode on there.
Yeah, well, the biggest issue Monday they had a thing about student loans on there.
Really?
That killed about 1,500 people's jobs, just like mine.
Hey, by the way, too, before we get into too much conversation, when we're off air, that Facebook's still going. So we're still technically on air somewhere. They can hear what we're saying right now. If you don't want them to hear what we're saying, I can always click it back over so they can hear the radio feed instead. But
Now it's a website that people should know.
Justifying education debt, Ray. That's a crazy concept.
It's like your boy Ray on that.
On the what?
Ross told me I was line 3.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Ray's good people. He'll get anything done you need to get done. I'm not sure what that Ray guy doesn't do. He dabbles in audio video stuff. He does everything mechanical. He messes around with electrician stuff. He does pressure washing. He's one of those.
Jack of all trades.
Yeah, one of those anything and everything guys. Where'd Roz go? I need some coffee up in here, Roz.
How many people are actually viewing Facebook right now?
Right now, it's only 8. Oh, I thought that coffee was for me. Raj, you hater. You hater.
Where do you draw the line? If you commit murder, should you be allowed to vote in the United States? But it is the answer from that man, Bernie Sanders, when...
You should not be allowed to vote.
Yeah.
Let's forgive their student loans if they're in jail.
Huh?
Forgive their loans if they're in jail.
Yeah.
Our student loans no more. We got caught up in the student debt bubble.
Now we can't wait for some help to bail us out of trouble.
I got this fancy piece of paper called a college degree. 200 G at Sarah Lawrence is what it cost me. Majored in women's studies and anthropology. Applied to work at Google, but those nerds rejected me. I thought I had it maybe because I got all A's. Now I'm in Starbucks singing venti lattes. I got no money in my pockets and I just don't understand how come real life doesn't come with a meal plan.
Yeah, I honestly, that little rap right there, I think summed up a decent portion of this segment right now. Seriously, 200 grand for this degree in underwater basket weaving. I applied to Google. They said, no. So now I'm using my PhD to make her coffee at Starbucks. I guess pretty decent little nutshell of the situation we're in right now. All right, let's go to our guest right now sitting to my right. His name is student loan debt expert. That's for practical reasons. Let's start with a very general opening question. All right, now I don't know whether this happened sometime in 1995 or sometime in 2019 or probably sometime in between, but at some point in America, student loan debt surpassed credit card debt, right?
Correct.
All right, so go ahead and get close to that mic so they can hear you. They want to make sure they hear all your answers. Let's just ask the general opening question of, all right, how did we get here?
How did we get here is basically college tuition went up, people dropping out of schools. Basically, that's one of the major factors is a rise in tuition and people not completing their education.
Now, that rise in tuition, is there any central thing we can point to? I had a guest in here, the guy, he's Nathan Keebley. He's an economics writer from FEE. And now he would say that one of the major problems that Victor Ashe wrote an op-ed. This is what brought this up. Victor Ashe wrote an op-ed, I believe, for Knox News Sentinel, just basically posing the question of why does the University of Tennessee pay individuals that are not, to an extent, that are not at all equal with the fair market value of institutions that are in the private. Do you get what I'm saying? All right, so you're paying someone to do something over here that's grossly above the pay that you pay someone else over here on the left. And they're doing basically the same thing. One is the University of Tennessee, the other one is the private sector. What's amiss there? How is it the University of Tennessee is continuing to raise their tuition cost? My buddy Nathan Keeble would say, well, one of the problems there is that universities in general feel like they can continually charge higher prices because the federal government got involved in the student loan situation. Did that have anything to do with it?
You are correct because the federal government does back everything. So that can cause universities to raise their prices because they're going to guarantee that students can get a loan.
Now, I suppose prior to the federal government getting involved, a situation we had would be, all right, so if it's a private institution that's trying to determine whether or not you should get a student loan, they might think, okay, let's ask some general questions of what's your degree going to be in? Are you going to become a civil engineer? We could probably have a decent assessment that you're going to pay that loan back sometime later on, right? It's highly likely that if you're going to get a electrical engineering degree or a mechanical engineering degree or going to become a nurse or something, you're going to have employment, therefore you can pay it back. A private corporation would probably say, if you're going to get a degree in lesbian dance theory, I don't know if I'm going to be able to back that. But correct me if I'm wrong, at least what I've found is the federal government, if you're applying to a federal government loan, they don't really ask any questions at all about why you want this money, what you're using it for, the degrees you're going to use it for, and they kind of give you as much as you want to ask for. Am I wrong?
Well, if you're going to apply for a loan, normally the government asks where you're going, how many hours you're taking, based on how many hours you're taking, how much loan they're going to give you. Pretty much they'll give you what the institution's going to charge you. Now, private sector, you should ask, what is your degree going to be? Typically, when you get a loan, they're going to ask normally they'll try to get your parent to sign the dotted line for a Parent Plus loan, in case the loan goes in debt. Because a Parent Plus loan, your parent becomes responsible for you do.
Right.
So basically, when you do, say I want to go to Mississippi versus UT, two local colleges. they're going to give you the money. Now, the government now, public university, for Pellissippi, first 2 years is free if you keep the grades and you stay in the class. More people should utilize free education while it's out there.
Yeah.
But if you want a student loan, they'll give you what you want. Just prove that you're going to that institution.
Well, let's talk about the culture issues then. All right. So it's not like it's a little bit like this, but it's not necessarily like there's some federal government employee that's holding a gun to these students' heads saying you must go to college. Okay, there's not a practical situation where someone's forcing you to go to college, but it is a cultural situation, is it not?
It is a cultural thing. It starts with high school.
Right.
And then goes to college. A lot of things you need to start in high school. You need to bring back vocational. A lot of kids these days aren't meant for a 4-year degree college.
Now, you mean bring back vocational training in high school, I suppose, right? Not just the introduction right after high school?
No, like trades.
Right.
Not everybody's meant to be a business person. You got a lot of skilled jobs out there that are dwindling. They're going to come avoid.
Yeah, but here's my problem. Not a problem with that, but I would like to think that more politicians can get behind that, and at least by way of simple rhetoric, a lot of politicians in this area would say, yes, I get behind the idea of trade schools and apprenticeships. The whole what was Randy Boyd's thing, the drive for 50, or I don't know, whatever that thing was, right? But when you're going to high schoolers, there's a very real social stigma, and I say this from experience, there's a very real social stigma that some high schoolers would face, that I have a lack of IQ, I don't have the drive, something dealing with white privilege. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Fill in the blank of everybody, all of my friends are going to college, they're going to get those 4-year degrees, they're going to look prestigious amongst their colleagues, prestigious amongst their peers, they're going to compare those pieces of papers, I went to Yale, I went to Harvard, you went to measly old University of Tennessee, and now this guy down here on the line, he's going to say, what am I? I'm a welder. How do you get past that, that bar almost?
Well, you got some welders, senior welders that make more than 4-year degree college people.
Yeah, most of them, I would say. All right.
But they don't. But they love to do the dirty work.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's not just welders, it's plumbers, it's electricians, it's a whole slew of things that and honestly, that would be my pitch is if I'm going to go to a room full of high schoolers right now and someone's going to ask me, okay, how do you make this palatable to high schoolers? How do you appeal to high schoolers to say maybe you don't need to go to college? I would probably just, whatever that meme is that's floating around the internet of, hey, Sally went to a 4-year degree, she has, $80,000 worth of student loan debt, she now has a master's degree with another $20,000 of student loan debt, and oh, by the way, with her master's degree, she's making, $37,000 a year. Johnny didn't go to college, he has no student loan debt, he went to a welder apprenticeship program, now he's making $89,000 4 years after the apprenticeship is done. That's what I would say, right?
Correct.
I would talk to these high schools and say, what's the thing they say, Roz, are you about that money? Roz, it's something like that. All right, I don't know what the street lingo is. But
no, you don't. You're absolutely right.
whatever they say, and whatever you do.
I like to say I'm not allergic to money.
All right, yeah, there you go. Right, yeah, that's what I would say. Is if you're not allergic to money.
I don't know what all the kids are saying these days.
Money.
Yeah, the point being is if you're trying to get some money, ultimately, there's a much better way to do it. We got to hit this first break right now. Come back. We're going to play some clips from Elizabeth Warren, get our student loan debt expert opinion on what he thinks about. Hey, let's just get the federal government to pay for the loan debt that they created, and then what's going to happen going forward with this whole situation. Be right back.
Student loans. Student loans.
I'm going to push this a little bit closer.
That's fine.
I'm getting like a shower type thing. That'll be better. And if there's anything we're missing that you think we should touch on, feel free to just bring that up arbitrarily even,
I wouldn't bring up statistics, but the thing is, or one thing, I don't know how you want to, general topic conversation, like statistics overcome first.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean statistics?
Well, you got 1.5 trillion, 44 Americans are eligible for it.
Yeah.
But the average student loan is 40,000. When you come out of college, you got a house payment.
Yeah.
And don't even have a job.
Yeah. House payment, insurance, cell phone payment, car, got the video
kids. A lot of people, we got to get to the point they realize that wherever their student loans is, you call them, it's income based. They'll drop your payment.
Right.
At some point.
You mean make it based upon
what you make?
Yeah. What is that? It's like applying for another 30-year loan almost, isn't it? Right?
Technically, no. They're forced to work with you.
They're forced what now?
They have to work with you.
Oh, they have to work with you, right?
But under Obama's student forgiveness, if you're not in default 20 years of good standing, whatever's left, they forgive right now.
What is default technically? Like
When you're
the first time you miss?
No, default is when you're in collection.
Okay.
When you're a private collection or one of the small companies.
Gotcha.
Where your taxes can be offset and garnishment.
Dude, what happens if, I don't know if we're here yet, what happens if a sizable percentage, if not even the majority of people that have student loan debt just don't pay it back?
They're going to pay it if they file taxes.
Okay, all right.
No matter what, once soon as they file taxes, they're going to pay it.
Now, how would that work?
Well, the IRS the student loans will send a tax offset to the IRS. So whenever you do file,
right,
even if you have a spouse, your spouse's income can be taken.
Wow. All right.
And you have to file for an injured spouse and get theirs back.
Gotcha. Jeez, man.
Warren has no business. She ain't gonna win the presidency for giving 95%.
Is there any practicality to that at all?
You can't forgive it.
You can't, you said?
No, because we claim it as an asset to the country.
Wow. Yeah.
That's why you can't bankruptcy on it.
Huh.
They backed it. It's guaranteed. We claim it as an asset.
Jeez.
The question is, where's the lotto money going to? That's supposed to help education.
All right, so this clip here, when, listen to this.
And he left. She won't. And was her intent to obstruct justice when she deleted, bleached
No, this is Hillary Clinton's
busted up devices with hammers, pulled out SIM cards? Now, Warren followed up that remark with more talk about, higher and higher taxes. Remember, she wants to legislate stealing, where after you pay all your taxes, if you happen to have any left, she wants the government to be able to say, wait a minute, you saved too much. We're going to now go back and take another bite at the apple. And don't forget, when you die, you even pay a bigger bite of the apple. They always get the gold in your teeth if they could. And mass government debt and forgiveness, free college. Well, who's going to pay for all this? Take a look.
We're going to roll back student loan debt for about 95% of students who have debt. That's part one. And part two is to make sure that we never get in this mess again on student loan debt, and that is to make college universally available with free tuition and fees.
All right, so that's a three-part question. But I guess in response to your first thing, when she says we're going to roll back for about 95% of people with current student loan debt, your response, I suppose, would be, there's no way. There's just no practical way?
There's no practical way, because that's an asset. You're basically wiping the debt.
With more debt?
With more debt.
So you're just doubling the debt?
Yeah, because you've already paid for it. You've already paid professors and universities.
Right.
So you just threw the money away. It's like free aid to countries, like for natural disasters. It's not even our country.
So it's not even a bad talking point. Literally what she's pitching is taking the current student loan debt. Would you say 1.something trillion?
1.5 trillion.
So the only practical way to look at what Elizabeth Warren is pitching is 95% of the 1.5 trillion. You're basically, her only practical pitch is to just make that 3 trillion?
Basically, you're just throwing it away. Might as well have a dumpster fire.
That's outrageous, dude. And it's so simple to put it that way. That would be the only way it could work, right?
Right.
It's already paid for debt. The only way she's talking about paying for it is with more federal debt, right?
Correct.
Good Lord, man. Is there any way out of this situation then?
Out of the situation, if you want to forgive it based a little on rates. You might forgive maybe 20%, but you got to cut the rates. You got to
in college.
People got to be educated when they consolidate. They got to negotiate because that interest accrues. And once you consolidate 6 disbursements into one loan, you got 6 interests that's adding more debt.
All right, let me do this then. Let's start with the statistical thing that you just brought up to begin with, the 1.5 trillion, coupled amongst however many tens of thousands or hundred thousands or millions of people, whatever. I'll play Warren's clip, go to consolidation stuff. Maybe that'll take us to the break, and then I'm going to come back with, all right, dude, what do we do? What in the world do we do going forward, right? I mean, you want your budget balance?
Oh, man, I'm the budget balancer. It's going to be huge.
All right, here we go.
Hey, it's
7 in the morning. Welcome back to Real News. Our student loan debt expert just blew my mind off air here in a way that should be very simple to do with everyone else as well. We're going to do this for the next segment, and I promise y'all it's going to be, man, this whole talking point of just getting rid of student loan debt, free college education, everything else is going to immediately collapse upon itself. Let's start this way. Student loan debt expert to my right here. You just brought this up. Hey, and I asked him to preface it, say, hey, if there's anything you want to get involved with or talk about that we didn't bring up already, feel free to go ahead and bring that up. And he said, well, let's talk about the statistics. The statistics being of where we're at with student loan debt, how this breaks down. Go ahead on that.
Well, the statistics right now, we're in debt about 1.5 trillion. That counts about 44 million people counting for that debt. The average debt for those people is about 40 grand. 16% of the 44 million have more than 50,000 in debt. Now the bad thing is when you graduate school or you complete, you're basically coming out of college with a house payment. How do you expect a freshly educated student to make that payment with no guaranteed job?
Right. The answer is you don't. All right.
You don't. You got to call your provider, and they're going to negotiate with you.
Right.
Based on whatever kind of job that you get, they are required to negotiate your payment until you get more income.
And I just asked before, what about the crazy hypothetical of people just refusing to pay this debt? Or the crazy hypothetical of, I don't know, people don't have jobs so they won't pay. But you said, no, the IRS has it taken care of. The debt's been guaranteed, right?
Well, the debt's guaranteed. If you're going to refuse to pay, and you're not willing to talk to your providers, once it goes in default, once it goes in collection status, you are going to pay. Whether they're going to administrative wage garnishment you, or they're going to tax offset you. So whenever you do file your taxes, if you do, your tax return, it will go to the debt and start payment.
Now, you say the stats one more time so everyone understands the full gravity of where we are. 1.5 trillion, you said?
1.5 trillion, roughly a little over 44 million people are responsible for that.
Now, if we were to graph that out, what you're looking at, is this like an exponential increase over the last 5 years? Has it been a steady rise?
It's been a steady rise since probably the late 90s.
Late 90s.
And also what people don't realize is when you graduate, when you go to college, you go to 4-year college, whether it's semesters, that's 8 semesters, that's 8 different disbursements.
Right.
Normally when you graduate in college, you get a financial counselor that will come to you, let's consolidate the debt. Now when you're in college, you're not paying on the debt, so it's accruing interest. You're putting eight disbursements together, you're lumping that interest into more principal debt. You lump that debt, then you put an interest rate. So you've accrued more debt automatically by combining those 8 loans.
And then we touched the cultural issue just a second ago, but let me ask this, that steady rise, do you see a jump at any particular time when the federal government got involved? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Probably early 2000s.
Okay. All right. Let me, and Russ, can I get this computer going here? All right, let's blow people's minds here with what will become quickly, if it is not already, a major Democrat presidential candidate talking point. Here's Elizabeth Warren just two nights ago, talking, first of all, she sets this up, a clip I'm not going to play. She sets this up, Senator Elizabeth Warren unveiling her $640 billion plan for college debt forgiveness. Now, that's interesting because she says $640 billion. If you're agreeing with our student loan debt expert now, that's more than double. The actual number is more than double when she's talking about 95%. Listen to this clip.
Look, we are going to roll back student loan debt for about 95% of students who have debt. That's part one. And part two is to make sure that we never get this mess again on student loan debt, and that is to make college universally available with free tuition and fees.
All right, so there's a 3-part setup there, okay? She said we're going to forgive 95% of the student loan debt. Secondly, she said we're going to make sure this never happens again. And third, she said we're going to make college for free. Now, the last two of those questions I want to save here for a second. The first thing she proposed, though, here, this right here.
One. And part two, students who have loan debt for about 95% of students who have.
She says we're going to roll back student loan debt for about 95% of students that have it. Now, this point that our student loan debt expert is going to talk on here right now is going to be one of the most simple proposals that I've ever heard to not just immediately refute this talking point, but put in full demonstration how problematic that talking point actually is for America. You said a second ago, it practically can't happen because America already counts that student loan debt as an asset, correct?
Oh, it is an asset.
Explain
You've already paid for it. It's not like its loans have not been paid. The universities, the teachers, the professors, the book companies have already been paid. You can't forgive it.
That's why the term guaranteed is such a...
It's guaranteed.
Right?
It's just like, for example, not student loans, we sell military arms people. We're going to forgive that when we give them weapons?
Right. Right? So when someone comes out and says, okay, we're going to forgive 95% of the student loan debt, when our expert right now says, well, you can't just forgive it. There's nothing to forgive. It's already counted as an asset, right?
Correct.
So the idea being, the only way you could technically forgive it is just to double the student loan debt. Now, what I'm saying is, and tell me if I'm wrong, it seems like what Elizabeth Warren is practically pitching right now is this. You take $1.5 trillion, that's current debt, it's already an asset, it's already been paid for. What our student loan debt expert means is the professors, the books, the tuition, all the stuff that's covering has already been paid out by the federal government. It's already been guaranteed. Those checks have already been cashed, they've already been written. They're already taken to the bank, it's in their accounts. It's there. It is already $1.5 trillion. When Elizabeth Warren says she wants to forgive this, she's just going to create double the debt to pay for the debt. Is that wrong?
You're absolutely perfectly correct. You're not wrong on that. If you want to stop the problem, you need to start with what the problem is. Is the tuition prices.
Now, why is that? How do you fix that problem?
How you fix that? You cap them, and also the criteria for when you go to get a 4-year degree. You're going to get a business degree. A majority of universities they require you to take PE classes. You go to you want to be a finance person. Okay, you went to high school. You took your PE classes. Why do I got to pay for 2 semesters of PE?
Right.
Charging $1,000 probably for that class.
Right. Why do I have to take Spanish if I'm going to major in, I don't know, fill in the blank.
Why do I got
right?
to take chemistry?
Yeah.
I'm going to be a business person. I'm not going to work in a lab.
Yeah, that's the truth, man. Why do I have to take math when to go to law school?
If you're going to be a nurse, you're going to be a doctor, you take those specific classes. You want to be a financial person, you take business classes. You shouldn't be required to take science.
I mean, it's a bit off topic, but when Kim Kardashian came out the other day and said that she thinks that you don't have to go to law school to be a good attorney, I guarantee you, every single attorney in this nation thought to themselves, well, it's wild that Kim Kardashian is saying it, but it is true. It is true. You don't have to go to... They tell you that in law school. On day one, they tell you in law school, by the way, the LSAT did nothing to prepare you for law school. By the way, law school is not going to prepare you how to be a decent attorney. Why am I here then? Why shouldn't I just apprentice under an attorney? Let me cap this one more time so people know what we're saying. Elizabeth Warren's talking about the $1.5 trillion in student loan debt that we already have. Everyone's following along. That is already counted as an asset for America. The debt has already been paid. So when Elizabeth Warren comes out and says we're going to forgive that, the only way to forgive that is to create more debt to pay for the previous debt. So the best way to take what Elizabeth Warren is saying, and again, tell me if I'm wrong, the best way to take what she's saying is 95% of rollback on student loan debt is basically going to add $3 trillion, or at least another $1.5 trillion to our current national deficit problem, right?
Yes.
Who's going to pay for the additional $1.5 trillion? Where's that coming from?
The taxpayers. Me and you will end up paying it.
Along with the Green New Deal?
Yeah.
I mean, but no, in all sincerity, you understand finance better than I do. I'm trying to wrap my head around even these ideas and proposals. I'm trying to wrap my head around if Senator Elizabeth Warren even takes herself seriously. You got a $93 trillion plan for the Green New Deal. You have another $1.5 trillion to cover the current $1.5 trillion of student loan debt. Are they even being serious when they pitch this, or are they just naive?
They're probably naive. Hey, if you want to start with the problem, they need to cut some of their paychecks.
Goodness
They're
gracious.
guaranteed a paycheck as soon as they're out of office.
Hey, let me play, Roz, is this computer good here? Yeah, let me play the second and third question here. That'll bring us into the next topic of conversation.
Yeah, that's part one. And part two is to make sure that we never get in this mess again.
All right, part two, she says, and the part three is make college for free for everybody. Part two, make sure we never get in this problem again. Obviously, that's completely antithetical to the first part that she pitched, to where we need to make sure we never get in this problem again, so let's create this problem yet one more time. Let's gloss over that for a second. How do we make sure we never get in this problem again?
Well, if you want to go to school, make sure you go. If you don't get the loan.
Just don't get the loan.
Yeah. There's a lot of Americans out there hardworking that go to school and they pay for school out of pocket. But the thing is, if you want to stop the debt, you're gonna have to put more restriction on giving loans.
That's gonna be a tough thing for a lot of people to accept, though, wouldn't it? Of people saying that, hey, my parents can't pay for college. I certainly can't pay for college, especially not with the prices the colleges are right now. What if I want to go to college? You're telling me that I shouldn't go to college because I can't pay for it.
No, basically, you can go to college on scholarships. You got to make the grades. You got to put the effort in.
There you go, right? There you go. What is it? What is it in Tennessee now? How does it work? You can go to Pell Sippy for 2 years for free, right? As long as you keep the Hope. I'm not
Well,
up
the
to.
Hope Scholarship, as long as you go, you keep your grades proper, it's free college. If you don't make the grades or if you drop out of that class, you're responsible for it.
Amen. And look, I'm telling you, it's not all that difficult to keep the grades here. Let's ask the third question here before we hit this break and back ask questions about, hey, if you have student loan debt, what are you going to do to handle this? Here's the third question.
Student loan debt, and that is to make college universally available with free tuition and fees.
All right. Okay. So that question there. Now, you hear rumors on it how I'm continually compounding the problem, the financial problem we're having. Throw the Green New Deal out for a second if you want to. Elizabeth Warren's proposal to take care of the current student loan debt is to add another $1.5 trillion on top of that. Apparently, her second issue here is we need to make sure this never happens again. She didn't answer how we're going to make sure that never happens again. Going into the third aspect here, she's already talking about adding more debt. How in the world do we make college free? Is that ever going to happen?
Well, how are you going to pay for it free? How are you going to pay for the professors?
Federal government's going to pay for it, won't they?
If you're going to make it free, how are you going to come up with the money?
I don't know.
How are you going to increase the taxes?
Right.
If you're going to do that, you're basically guaranteeing yourself out of office. I'm not going to vote for that person.
What's the GDP of America? What are we talking? I know the federal budget's somewhere around 4.1 trillion, 4.5 trillion, or something like that. From the numbers I've added up so far, we're talking close to 2. Now, if you're talking free college, I don't know, another trillion on top of that. We're basically talking about a half, a third, 2/3 of the total of the federal government budget here. Do you get what I'm saying? I mean, I'm losing my mind thinking that anyone is taking these proposals seriously.
How are you going to expect Yale or Harvard to let you go there for free?
Of course. They're not going to stand for that. Hey, 8:49, hit this break. Come back with one final segment on, all right, what does the future look like? How do we go forward? How do you help yourself out with this? Be right back.
This stuff's crazy, man. It's absolutely crazy.
The problem is I could tie this into medical debt where you talked about yesterday.
Really?
There's medical debt, home debt. Because when you were talking about medical debt yesterday, I was texting her, should I call in? And I was like, I can't, unfortunately, right now.
Right. Yeah, man, that medical debt, man, that's a person.
Well, student loans is the only debt you cannot file bankruptcy.
Really?
That's guaranteed.
Oh, right. Jeez, man.
And the biggest thing is also what puts people in more debt is when they file bankruptcy. They think their student loan's debt, and majority attorneys don't tell them.
Really?
Yeah.
I'd have to think that'd be malpractice, man. That's terrible.
Well, I'm not going to say it on there, but I'm just saying that they're like, they should say, yes, you got to pay for this.
Right.
But in an umbrella, you got, like, depending on the chapter, you have to cease collection, but it's still getting interest. But I don't want to bring that up.
Man, let's take a quick minute and try and tie it to the medical stuff, man.
Is there a question on there?
I don't know, man. I get people call all the time just want to talk to her. Or sometimes people call just wanting to listen to it on the phone. I have no idea. Half the time it's Ray just bouncing around between Facebook and live and the phone. I don't know.
But you can tie all debt into student loans.
Yeah.
All debt together.
Is there any similarities at all to the housing crisis situation?
Well, if you can cause a recession if you forgive, or depression if you forgive student loans. Wow. That's a big old void.
Right.
But if you have free college, why would you want to teach if it's going to be free? How are you guaranteed a paycheck? You can have all those professors that are in Ivy Leagues make so much different from 2 years. Where you can put, you're a history professor, you're making so much a year, I don't care what college.
Right.
You're capped.
Yeah, that's true.
Put your experience out there, then your experience doesn't mean nothing.
Yeah.
You'll create a void on teachers and professors.
Maybe we should push for that just so Republicans can take academia back over, dude. I don't know. That's a terrible situation for everybody, man. How long do you have, by the way, today?
I'm free.
All right.
I'll talk about any different topic.
I may, all right. I may just keep you through the 9 hour. We'll just bounce all over the place if you want to.
We can bounce anywhere. Normally when you talk about that, I can't call in right now, but it's a general practice. If you owe debt, call your company and they owe debt. They'll work with you. If you avoid them, then you're gonna have, then there'll be problems. It's not like the water electric company. If you don't pay it, they'll just shut it off.
Right, I was going to say, yeah. I mean, because at the end of the day, I would think the people that you owe debt to, they want your money.
Or
They
you
want
owe
you to pay
debt,
something.
they'll put you on a payment plan. They don't want to shut it off.
Right, right.
But if you have options like cable, if you have Uverse, Comcast, Knowledge in all one area, you can bounce to another one.
Right.
But eventually, if you go through all of them, you're gonna have to pay them.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Okay.
For those who doubted me, yeah, this is payback. And I've been on my grizzy, yeah, since way back. No sir, and now I don't drive a Maybach. But guess what?
That song,
Let me tell you what I've been through.
that song is awesome. Oh my god. I can see some just financially aware rappers out there. I finished paying selling me. That's right. That's awesome. I'm going to listen on the way home. Matt's saying on Facebook, that's another part of the problem. College has become a very expensive social club, not about education anymore. Yeah, that's a big part of the problem. Briscoe made a funny joke on Facebook here pertaining to Elizabeth Warren idea to how to figure out how to add another 1.5 trillion to the debt. How to figure out how to make college for free, how to not repeat this problem. Briscoe said, I don't know, maybe she's going to use Common Core math to balance the budget and pay for it that way. You just move zeros around, move ones around. I don't know what Common Core is, or it'll make sense eventually. Hey, by the way, we are taking questions on this topic. 865-888-TALK, 865-888-8255. That's 865-888-8255. That's the Crown Plaza call-in number. If you have student loan debt, if you want to have a conversation about how this pertains to Democrat presidential candidates, I'd love to go in that route as well. Just thinking, man, dude, somebody in Elizabeth Warren team has to understand how asinine this proposal is, and yet she's still pitching it genuinely to the American people. Now, I want to transition to 9 o'clock hour. Our guest is going to be here talking about some more of this. He also said regarding our topic yesterday of the Tenovo issue, tying this into medical debt, tying this into a bunch of different issues. I even want to ask, what's the situation may look like for a possible repeat of the housing crisis, all that stuff. Have about 3 minutes left here on the way out. You said something, though. I wanted to give people at least some silver linings here, some hope in the perspective if they're drowning or struggling in student loan debt. You said something to the effect of like the first step you should take, right? Just call your providers. They'll work with you. They're legally bound to work with you, right?
Well, the first step is pick up the phone and call them. Majority of people are afraid to make that call when you owe a debt.
Most people are, I would say.
If you owe it, call it. They'll work with you. Now unfortunately, you can probably go over your budgets. They'll put you in a better payment option. But if you don't make that call, you're not going to have an option what's available to you.
Right. Now that you mean because at some point, especially, you said too, the student loan debt is one that you can't forgive through bankruptcy, right?
Correct. It's the only debt out there you can't file bankruptcy. You can file on everything, credit cards, home, medical, about anything.
Because it's already guaranteed.
Well, student loans guaranteed is you can't.
Right. So the idea being is, look, the fact that it's already guaranteed, the fact that America is already counting it as an asset means that it's already been paid. I mean, you cannot be forgiven of something that has already been paid. The whole concept there. What would you say then with someone that is fearful of? Because I think that's where most people start. Most people start with, man, it's one thing, I can put it off till tomorrow. I'm fearful of paying this back. I'm fearful of getting wrapped up in collections. I just don't want to deal with it today. But call your provider anyways, yeah?
Well, majority of people, when you pay a bill, everybody pays normally their house payment first.
Right.
Then your car payment. You got to have a house, keep your family under, got a car, go to a job. Then you prioritize your other bills, what's more important. I don't care which bill you have, call your providers. They're going to work with you. You might have to push your due date back.
Go ahead.
But the biggest fear is nobody wants to pick up the phone. They don't know how that phone call is going to go. Would you call your debt person?
Right. No, probably not. No, I hear you.
Would you call your debt person when you got a legal letter in the mail then?
Yeah,
When
sure.
it's probably too late?
Yeah. When it's too late, yeah. But then you just answered the question. It's too late then, right? Isn't it?
Well, it depends on what the debt, but it's too late. But like if student loan debt, if you go in default, you can be garnished. or you can get your taxes. Now, you can get that eventually stopped, but if you wait to that point, why wait to the point?
And I want to hit this break and come back also and tie this into obviously what we were talking about yesterday. If you just joined today, didn't hear yesterday's show. Yesterday, I brought up this issue of someone brought this to me. They went to it was provided through Tenovo, but it was a quote that this person received of, hey, pay $950 on the day of. We'll put you through an MRI. This guy shopped around. He went to a bunch of different insurance providers and was trying to get the best possible quote on what an MRI, not the procedure itself, not the actual surgery itself, but just the MRI, what that would cost. They said, hey, pay $950 today, all things included. That's a good faith estimate of the total of your estimate. Went to Tenovo, had the MRI done. A week later, got a bill in the mail for $11,000. I kid you not, $950 is the original total cost. Got a bill a week later saying $11,000. Our student loan debt expert's going to say how this is all coupled together. And I also want to ask the final question of, hey, what could a presidential candidate say about the student loan debt situation right now that would be practical as far as it pertains to a solution and we could actually genuinely accept? Were you going to say something, Russ?
Yeah, we just have a caller that's requesting him to stay because he wanted to talk to him.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, he's staying through 10. We're going to talk about all kind of stuff.
Right.
8:59, news, traffic, weather, all that. Be right back.
Ooh. Facebook, which y'all want some more Alan Watts? Let's pick up where we left off.
That's just like tradition in religion.
Yeah.
It is primarily upon right belief. Do you believe in the right dogmas, the right doctrines? And only secondarily upon right action. Because what you believe is, in Christianity at any rate, far more important than what you do. Because one is saved through faith, not by works. And early in its history, the Christian church rejected the movement in the church which had been known as Gnosticism, from the Greek gnosis, which means knowledge. And in a way, there were some sound reasons for doing so. Because the Gnostics were what I would call anti-materialists. They divided human beings into three classes that were called, respectively, pneumatic, psychic, and hylic. The last one being H-Y-L-I-C, from the Greek hyli, or they would call it now ile, meaning wood. So the people were spiritual, psychological, and wooden. And that is to say, the wooden people were those most absorbed in materiality and most closely identified with their bodies. And Orthodox Christianity rejected this sort of distinction because of the perfectly correct idea that material existence is not inconsistent with spirituality. This is something which most Christians have forgotten. But they do believe, as the central principle of Christianity, in what's called the incarnation. That in the Jesus of Nazareth, Almighty God did in fact become material, become human. And by this process, initiated a transformation of the cosmos. In the words of St. Athanasius, God became man, that man might become God. And you don't hear that from the pulpit very often. The Christian church therefore emphasized pistis, or faith, as against gnosis, or knowledge, because they said you can never know God. God could never become an object of knowledge. And in this funny roundabout way, the Christian theologians were saying exactly the same thing as the Hindus. Only the Hindus do call this knowledge of God through faith, they call it jnana, which is the same as the Greek word gnosis. But just to give you a little sidelight on how words get mixed up in their meanings, we now have a class of person called an agnostic. And an agnostic generally means a person who doesn't commit himself to any beliefs about the ultimate nature of things. He just says he doesn't know. But the original word, agnosia in Greek, meant a special kind of knowledge. It was called the dark knowledge of God. The knowledge of God in the cloud of unknowing, to use the title of a mystical treatise written by an anonymous 14th century English monk. This monk derived his ideas from a very mysterious figure who wrote under the name of Dionysius the Areopagite. Dionysius was a 5th or 6th century Syrian monk who had learned his mysticism from Porphyry, who got it from Plotinus, who was a Neoplatonist, and who probably got a great deal of stimulation from the intellectual world of Alexandria. And Alexandria, in the early years of the Christian era, was a tremendous exchange place between East and West. Buddhist monks visited Alexandria. It was one of the great centers of trade between Rome and India. And as you may know, all Rome's gold eventually went to India for the purchase of pepper. And as a result of this, the Roman economy collapsed. They bought too much luxury from India. India, in exchange, got Roman architecture. And you'll see a lot of Roman architecture in Indian temples. But Alexandria was the great center for the Gnostics and for Christian theology. And some of the greatest theologians, Clement, Origen, Athanasius, St. Cyril, all worked out of Alexandria. But now going back to this strange monk, Dionysius, it was he who first put around the idea in Christian circles that there was such a thing as the knowledge of God by faith. By agnosia, really, by unknowing. And he, in a book which he wrote, very short book called the Theologia Mystica, he wrote a treatise on the higher knowledge of God, which might be quoted directly from the Upanishads. And so,
All right, let's do a radio show, right? Right. Question for Ray. Yeah, I'll probably come back, just recap some stuff we talked about, stats, whatever else. Elizabeth Warren, push all that again. People that are just joining 9 o'clock hour, bring them up to speed, go to Ray's call, and just feel it out from there, you know?
Yeah, we've changed topic. I'll chat anything.
All right, yeah, I may even get into the whole, what do y'all think about people
incarcerated people being able to vote. That's
What about forgiving their student loan debt?
yeah.
We don't let them vote. Obviously, they're paying for it right now.
Seriously, man.
That's the only people you might forgive. They're serving life. You might as well go ahead and write that off.
Right. I mean, it's too easy of a talking point. I'm not the one that developed this, but I mean, even something as simple. Tucker Carlson brought this up last night. Actually, Sean brought this up with Pierce Morgan, of all people. Good Lord. Pierce Morgan, a guy who's vehemently against the Second Amendment, even made the point of, all right, hold on, you're going to let felons vote? They're certainly not going to have Democrat presidential candidates that are talking about giving the right to own a gun to a freaking...
You know, the sad thing is there's professional athletes that have faults in loans.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. No doubt, man. What do you think about paying college athletes?
Well, you might as well. They're making enough money. You might get a better program. They might stay longer.
Yeah.
But if we're going to pay them, they got to guarantee to make a certain grade.
Yeah.
So if you want money to play, you better make the grade because we're giving tuition. So depending on how well you perform and your grade, then it might determine your pay.
Just like, I mean, look.
If you miss that field goal, I'm sorry.
Right? No, I mean, look, there's a reason why, Aaron Rodgers is making what he's making and some random long snapper is making what he's making, right? 9:09 in the morning. Welcome back to Real News, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mr. Henry, broadcasting live from the FMT Insurance Studios. That Crown Plaza call number 865-888-TALK. It's 865-888-8255. Let me bring the audience up to speed with what we're talking about here with our guest in studio right now. His name is Student Loan Debt Expert. That's his Christian name. That's his name on the government papers. Social Security numbers attached to that name. All the good stuff. Student Loan Debt Expert is his name. Real quick, what we were speaking about is just the culture behind the student loan debt. Culture behind, I believe, most importantly, well, actually not right now. We'll get to that here in a second. Roz was asking me if I need the computer up. But the culture behind everyone sort of, if not being forced or coerced into going to college, thinking that there is no other reasonable option other than to go to college. And it's a frustrating situation because what has happened with my generation in particular now is you've saturated the market with college degrees, whereas now the college degree has become akin to the old school high school diploma. And now to get a leg up, to even stand out on a resume, people have been forced to go get a JD or master's degree or an MBA or, a PhD even just to stand out. And if it's not in a specified field, if you're getting a PhD in the study of butterfly migration or something, it's a very clear niche area that you're going into. So you're shackling people with these student loan debt. It's become a major problem now. We went through the statistics of our student loan debt experts said $1.5 trillion. What, 40 million people share that?
Yeah, roughly 44 million, a little more.
44 million people sharing the debt of $1.5 trillion. The biggest aspect of all of this conversation being that student loan debt has already been paid. It is an asset that America already counts. Meaning you can't file under bankruptcy, meaning if Elizabeth Warren comes out, which she did, and said they're going to try and roll back or forgive 95% of the student loan debt of $1.5 trillion, in practical layman terms, what that means is this is Senator Elizabeth Warren's proposal, and for that matter, any other Democrat presidential candidate that is proposing this right now, the proposal is essentially we're going to take the $1.5 trillion worth of student loan debt and basically double that. We're going to put the debt on top of debt to pay for the previous debt. The debt that the federal government created, we're going to create the exact same amount of debt to pay for the first amount of debt. That's basically the proposal. We're going to turn $1.5 trillion into $3 trillion. We're going to forgive the 44 million people that owe this to us, and we're going to double the debt. That's because it's already counted as an asset, because it's a guaranteed loan. It's a guaranteed debt. You right? I mean,
guaranteed, federally backed.
Guaranteed, federally backed. That's the proposal. That's where we're at right now. We talked a little bit about, what goes in the future? How do we not repeat this process? We talked a little bit about how do you make college free? Is there such a thing as making college free? We just touched on that topic. We also touched on, again, if you're just joining us, we touched on, if you have student loan debt, the best thing you can do to start with is call your provider. Call and have a conversation with them. They are legally bound, legally obligated to work with you, and they will work with you. The worst thing you can do is try and continually avoid them, With all that being said, let's go to Ray right now on the Crown Plaza call number, has a question for our guest. Ray, what's on your mind?
Good morning, Mr. Henry and Mr. Student Loan Expert.
Good morning.
Hey, I run a business here in East Tennessee, and when my business taxes come due every year, I'm not allowed to use credit to pay that. It's got to be cash only. And putting that idea into a state program, state-run program, mind you, this is all brought on by the state of Tennessee. Where is the loophole that we can now use credit to pay for state programs? To me, it's not common sense to use future money for what we need today. And that's how the state runs its taxes. We can't use future money to cover debt that you owe today. It has to be cash. So how does the legal right that people could use credit for education even begin?
Well, use credit, like for the state of Tennessee, for one example, we have the Tennessee Lottery here. My biggest question always is, where does that money directly go to? Because that should go credit towards education. Now, you paying your business tax since you're a business owner here, that shouldn't go credit towards tuition for somebody's right.
So what you're saying is that the loans being taken out federally is supposed to help Tennessee?
No, the federal loans that are taken out don't help Tennessee at all. But you got state governors, senators, congressmen around the country. Now, majority of the lottery money goes to public schools, should go towards tuitions. Now, as an American, I think we should ask our government, where's all that money going? For example, Ray, if you won the lottery today, they're going to take half the taxes right off the front. And then they're going to take the federal government to probably take their 35% after that. So half your money should be going to education. What type of education?
Well, that's all well and good, but this isn't a discussion about lottery because...
No, but I'm just saying, for credit for like schooling, but your business credit, it should not go towards education.
Nor should it be used to prop up other businesses to raise competition up against me. So you're using my own money against me. But what I still don't understand is I cannot use a credit card to pay my business taxes in Nashville. They want cash.
Well, they don't want you to create more debt, Ray. I don't know what your asset is if you pay your credit card every day, but there are some things that the government, you can't pay a credit card for student loans because you're creating more debt and you're getting interest on it.
Yeah, but isn't the student loan a line of credit?
Well, it is a line of credit, but depending on the education, normally when you get a student loan, for example, University of Tennessee, it depends on which type of loan they're going to give you. They're going to give you a direct loan. It's going to have your name on the University of Tennessee, you endorse it. Some student loans, they give you a little extra money to live on besides books. So technically, student loans should just go for books and tuition. You shouldn't have spending money. A lot of student loans are out there. Students are creating debt that they're going partying vacations on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I'll tell you too. Well, or anything. I mean, they even tell you in financial offices in any school you go to, law school or undergrad or otherwise, they say be careful about what you ask for from the federal government because they will give you whatever you ask for.
They'll give it to you, and whatever you don't spend, it's basically money in your pocket. But you don't realize you're going to have to pay it back. Don't take the money.
Don't take the money.
Because you're gaining interest on it.
Don't take the money. And if you ask for the money, you're going to see that amount of money show up in your account the day that it disperses through. And when it disperses through, whatever's left over from tuition, from fees, from books, from all the other stuff, if you have anywhere from $1 to $10,000 left over, that's your money. That's $10,000. If you drop it on a PlayStation 4 or 5 or whatever, you're paying for that PlayStation 4 with the interest that you're taking later on, right?
Correct. You're paying with the interest. The federal government, you want a $5,000 loan? Your tuition and books cost $3,500. they're not going to ask you to receipt where the $1,500 because they're going to make you pay back the initial amount.
And here's my bigger problem, Ray. I was saying this to our guest off air. I am genuinely wondering. It used to be that Republicans in this nation, in this state, there used to be there was somebody that was concerned about the idea of fiscal conservatism. Maybe it's just Rand Paul's the only one out there left that's pitching the idea that, hey, the biggest problem facing America is not China, it's not North Korea, it's not natural disasters, it's not the lack of oil, it's our biggest concern in America is the rising national debt. And I was asking our guest off air, is anyone genuinely concerned about that anymore? Seriously. Because we have Elizabeth Warren out there proactively pitching the idea that the best way to take care of our student loan debt is to double the debt that's already been guaranteed. I have to think nobody's seriously concerned about this, are they?
I don't think nobody's concerned about it. You have credit cards, you max the credit card out, you got another company willing to give you another one. You can create some more debt. If they're willing
there's nothing fiscally common sense about that. Because if I was to run my business like that, I'd have been closed 20 years ago. It's a cash basis. If I want to give you credit, it's going to be something that deals with the future. That sometime in the future, that I'll give you credit, yes, that I could do that job for you in the future. But today, it's got to be paid in full, and it's got to be hard cash.
Okay, but Ray, I got a question for you, since I know you call in all the time.
You do? I'm glad you listen to the show. That's just Knoxville is the best, because there's nothing better than Knoxville.
Okay, well, here's the general question, Ray. You have an average of 10 people. How many people carry cash in their wallet? How many people, what are the majority of people willing to just pull that plastic out and think about it later? Mm-hmm. My philosophy is if you don't have cash, don't pay, then you don't need it.
Yeah, which is why I say all the time, I'm constantly, continually surprised that Dave Ramsey has the career he has. Don't get me wrong. Please don't get me wrong. The guy's an icon in the industry. I get that. But it seems like Dave Ramsey, all he ever pitches is don't spend money you don't have and don't buy things you can't afford. Right?
Yes.
These two basic principles. If you follow those two basic principles, stuff seems to work out. It does.
Yeah, but the principle of me as a business owner opening up a bank to give my customers a line of credit that's a hole that nobody should be bothering with, because it's just a circling, a downward spiral of constantly looking for credit. You're constantly looking for credit instead of worrying about your issue today of paying your bill.
Yeah, no, I know. And see, this is why I go back one more time to it usually seems to become even more problematic than it was prior to the situation when the federal government gets involved. You get what I'm saying? I mean, if we had private corporations that were trying to take an interest in whether or not this debt's going to be paid back or not, as opposed to guaranteeing it before they even issue it, some of this problem may have taken care of itself. I don't know. Maybe we wouldn't have raising tuition costs at this point. Maybe we wouldn't have a slew of people that are going into, like I said, lesbian dance theory or underwater basket weaving or any other wild, hypothetical, nonsensical degree you could get out there. Look, I'm speaking to the choir a little bit. I'm probably guilty of this my own, of getting degrees that don't do much for you. But at the same time, it goes back to what our guest said here. If I go to a room full of high schoolers right now and I'm talking to them, if you want to make money, if you don't want to deal and be shackled with student loan debt your entire life, go get a job that's going to pay you some money. Start out young. Don't waste 4 years of your life getting that student loan debt for a degree you're never going to be able to use. Use that 4 years in the meantime, starting out making $50,000. By 4 years later, you're going to be $200,000 ahead of the person that you say you want to be able to compete with. I'll give you the last 30 seconds here, Ray.
Yeah, to me, it's boiling down to the money. And who's got the control of the money is the bank. So when the banks want to do something, they ease the rules a little bit, allowing people to get in trouble, hoping to tie them into a future payment. It's a bank playout that is trying to put people into debt so their own existence can be funded in the future. Pay cash, people.
Ray, but I appreciate the call as always. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Have a good day, Ray.
Hey, I got to hit this break and come back. I'm going to tie this to the issue of medical debt we were talking about yesterday, and then we're actually going to get back into a bit more national topics, just jumping all over the place here, talking about Bernie Sanders' proposal to, hey, if you're an incarcerated felon, if you're a mass murderer, if you're a rapist, doesn't matter. We'll give you the right to vote. Be right back.
Do you listen to the show?
I switch back. Normally it's between Tyler or here.
Oh man, I can't compete with Tyler. His stuff's so good. That guy's great.
The whole problem is I like sports.
Yeah, I
don't
know.
know what happens the day before.
Yeah, we dabbled for probably one solid season. Man, I love talking sports, especially college football. Politics, college football, philosophy, and religion are 4 things that, man, I could talk about for days. And there was one college football season. We actually had former UT football player in here. I mean, we tried to make a whole segment. It was just Monday morning only to start with. And after that season was done, I thought to myself, because I would listen to Tyler Summon, I thought to myself, man, there's so many people in this local area that do that so much better than I could ever do. There's no reason I should even touch it, man. Because not just Tyler, there's Ainge has a show, right?
Well, Eric Ainge is right after Tyler, but if you don't watch every sport,
right,
then you shouldn't do it.
You
can't do football, specifically baseball, golf. You got to know what's going on.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah. And college football is the only one that I could really even do reasonably well. And even with that, I couldn't do it reasonably well.
5 months out of the month.
Right.
So if you ain't good at another sport,
yeah.
If you don't watch women's volleyball, badminton.
Yeah, that's true, man. Ocho Cinco, that's right. ESPN the Ocho. Dodgeball. That's why I love that movie. Man, but so I think sports talk radio, man, we are spoiled for choice in this area. But I will say, as far as it pertains to political talk radio, local and national, I don't know, man, I don't want to be too braggadocious about the show or hype this show in particular too much, but it just seems like this area is ripe for something serious, man. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, nothing against 98.7. Those guys do great production. Their production quality is out of this world. But, man, dude, I'm begging for Triple H to just, get into it, dude. I'm begging for Bob Yarborough to deliver me something that I think people in this area, dude, they're ready. They are ready for serious topics, serious conversations, serious dialogue that pushes them, that makes them think, and they're ready to have politicians answer questions that they've never been asked before either, you know?
Hey, my philosophy on a politician should be like NASCAR.
Hmm?
You wear your endorsement on your jacket. Your financial backer.
Yeah. I like it, dude. I like it. And if you can defend it, right?
Oh, you getting paid by Exxon? Oh, you're getting paid by Pepsi?
Right?
Well, most corrupt politicians right there on the left.
What?
Former mayor of New York.
Oh, yeah, Giuliani.
You got a 19-year-old, you got a 20-year-old. Why don't you be a parent? Because you know what I'm saying is true. You know all education is not smart. So don't send them off to college to go, just get a degree in anything. Anything, just get a degree. Because if you don't get a degree, we're all going to die, and you won't be able to make the money because you're not a college graduate. So just get a degree in anything. This is the way the culture sounds. It sounds like a beagle chasing a rabbit. It's ridiculous. You just got to get a degree. In what? Here's an idea. Be smart about it. Get a degree in something that matters. And I'm not going to make fun of a bunch of majors that are actual real majors, but you know what I'm talking about. It has to have application in the marketplace, or your education makes you look stupid.
That's good. I'm going to steal that from Dave Ramsey. He sounds like a beagle chasing a rabbit. You know? Yeah, we know Hillary Clinton. We know. Sounds like a beagle chasing a rabbit. Hey, let me tell you, speaking of what I was speaking about yesterday, if you didn't catch yesterday's show, I had a person bring this to my attention. I'm going to cover this throughout and eventually actually call the Tennova representatives on live on air and actually just get to see if they can make a statement regarding this situation where a person said, hey, you come in full procedure for the MRI, not the actual surgery itself. It was for, I don't know what the surgery was. Surgery doesn't matter. Anyways, the point being is that an MRI was necessary before the procedure was done. Before the surgery was done. They quoted this person $950, all things included, total. The total expenses is a good faith estimate. Legally, that means something. A good faith estimate, $950. This person, a week later, got a bill in the mail for $11,000. Now, frustratingly enough, the $11,000 was not itemized, meaning there was no breakdown as to what was included between the difference of the $950,000, it might as well have been $950,000, $950, and the eventual total payment of $11,000. There was no way to tell, how did I get from $1,000 to $11,000? Where did that additional $10,000 come from? It wasn't. It was just, hey, here's the total cost. You figure out the additional $10,000. Was it $5,000 for the nurse walking the papers down the hallway? Was it another $8,000 for the radiologist to read the report? Was it, I don't know, $9,000 for a person to push a button to run the machine? I don't know. Where does that come from? Now, I bring that up again. I was asking the audience yesterday if they've heard any other similar situations, either with Tanovo or outside of this state. People listening on the app, by the way, Talk Radio 92.3 Knoxville, Talk Radio 92.3 Knoxville. Type that into your app store. Fantastic app. Beautiful mic quality here, better than the FM AM, or just Facebook Real News Radio on the Facebook search bar. You said, or our student loan debt expert said, okay, I was listening to the show yesterday, and I can tie in the medical debt as well. How does that work?
Well, the medical debt, you got people calling for free health care. That's another debt. But medical debt, you are right on Tanovo. Like, for example, you are right on the bills. How much they charge you for that gown they make you wear?
Right.
$1,000.
Yeah.
Bed sheets, $1,000 to wash them.
Yeah, what's an ambulance ride? Was it $5,000, something like that?
Well, it depends on how far. I think they charge minimum's $500. Like, maybe they charge you by the mile. They don't give you that itemized.
Right. I mean, one more time, man, I go back to, okay, tie that into the medical debt. We're talking, it's not, and this is all Democrat proposals, and people are saying Bernie Sanders, he was asked the question yesterday, okay, from a person who said, I just came from my father, fled a socialist country. You're now pitching policies to me. And I told y'all this was going to happen. I said this a year ago. When we have mass influx of immigration from Central and South American countries. What you're going to see is people that are fleeing socialism, and they're going to start to hear socialist policies, and they're going to think to themselves, why are you pitching me something that I just left, that I just literally fled from? And under asylum status, no less. And they asked Bernie Sanders, all right, so what's the difference between what I just fled from and what you're pitching? The idea being, okay, free college tuition, free student loan debts paid back, free health care for everybody. I asked the question one more time. It seems like nobody, either the Democrat Party or Democrat presidential candidates, are even willing to consider not just how we pay for it. It's not even a question of how we pay for it. It's a virtual conclusion ahead of time that it doesn't matter how we pay for it. It doesn't matter how we pay for it, or if we ever even answer that question of how we pay for it, because the ideal itself feels good enough that it should overwhelm the factual matter. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, the people that are giving ideas, they're going to be dead before the debts ever comes about and needs to be paid.
Goodness. Let me ask this then, tying it back into the housing crisis that happened, okay? Do you see any similarities with the potential of yet another depression or recession even? Sorry, recession or depression even?
Well, the way it's going, it could properly cause it. And how would we dig ourselves out?
No, that's my question, man. The housing crisis is one thing. I don't know what that eventually totaled to. We had a bailout program. We had a TAR program. We had to save ourselves from that. They all told us that some companies are too big to fail. They told us that without capital in the system of capitalism, we won't have a system left to thrive upon. But I would think, tell me if I'm wrong, if we're talking Green New Deal, free education, student loan debt forgiveness, free health care for everybody, would that not be the situation of the recession that was caused by the housing crisis times 10? Times, I don't know?
Probably. I think if you want to start with change, let's start with the Congress, senators. I think it's time for them to go get some new ideas up there. And also, if you want to talk about health care, make them take the average American's health care options.
Oh, wow.
They're guaranteed medical for life when they're out, and they get the best medical care.
Look, my personal opinion, again, if you want to make these changes, I think it has to start at a grassroots level. And what I mean by grassroots level, I think it has to start, first of all, organically. I think it's going to be a generational problem that it already is, and a generational solution. All right? I think you're going to have to convince a number of Americans that, hey, first of all, use my example, the proverbial me, use my example here. As a situation you don't want to repeat, a situation that you don't want to have to be continually shackled to somebody else to pay off student loan debt for a job that you were guaranteed you were supposed to be making more for anyways. And think about it this way. Also. What this ends up doing is creating a brand new class of individuals. You're extending adulthood by potentially another 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years even. It's a brand new demographic of people, okay? So you it used to be you could graduate high school, get a job in a manufacturing plant. You could start the whole adulthood thing by, 19, 20, 21. Yeah. If you went to college, you could start the whole adulthood thing by 23, 24, 25 with full, not just decent employment, not just decent pay. Yeah. I mean, healthcare, 401k, all this stuff involved, right? Well, now you're taking that, and because the college degree isn't what it used to be anymore,
Now you're saying you must get a master's degree, you must get a PhD to stand out, to start that adulthood, to start buying your own home, to start having a family, to start raising children. Now we're starting people into their late 20s, early 30s for that same thing. And unless the longevity of life is continuing to increase along with that, you're basically prolonging adulthood, which means the future generations are having to take care of the younger generations for 5, 6, 10 more years than they were before. It's not just a problem of student loan debt. It's a compounded problem of everything that's involved. Hey, 9:32, I've got to hit this break. Joan has the Tenova personal billing horror story. Oh, goodness gracious. We'll hit that, hit this break, come back with a totally different topic as well. I want to get our input on from our student loan debt expert. Bernie Sanders says that incarcerated felons should have the right to vote. It's not just Bernie Sanders. It's a bunch of folks. Be right back.
Yeah, Suzuki calling.
Yeah. Hey, give me 2 seconds. I gotta.
Oh, you must be crazy. Payments are monthly.
From the Fox Business Network, Boeing is reporting weaker earnings than a year ago and predicts it will face at least $1 billion in costs from the grounding of its 737 MAX. Boeing is holding off on saying how its business will do this year because the MAX jets are still grounded. Ford is investing $500 million in electric truck company Rivian Automotive. The two plan to work together on a new plug-in electric truck. Ford says the project will be separate from its own multi-year investment in electric vehicles and a battery-powered version of the F-150 pickup. Wing Aviation, a sister company of Google, is the first business to receive authorization from the FAA to deliver things to consumers using drones. To start, it will only be allowed to deliver things in a rural area around Blacksburg, Virginia. With the Fox Business Report, I'm Jenny Cosola.
3 reasons Ethos Life Insurance is great for you and your family. 1, it's affordable. You can get hundreds of thousands of dollars in coverage for less than you spend on coffees each month. 2, our online application couldn't be easier. It takes just 10 minutes to complete. 3, with Ethos, you're protecting your family's financial future so you can rest easy. To receive your free quote and complete your application in minutes, visit ethoslife.com. ETHOSlife.com. Ethos. Insure your life. It's never been easier.
This is Clark Howard.
What's that I'm controlling?
I can switch between whatever's coming through our microphones or through that board back there. I can send that audio straight to them, so commercials and other stuff, or I can switch it to this little microphone in front of the camera. Facebook, y'all concerned about this at all? We can talk about it sometime later on, or we can have Zachary on to talk about it.
Good afternoon. Quick update on the ESA bill. I did vote for the ESA bill on the floor for a couple of very specific reasons. 1, Knox County has been removed. Number 2, Knox County is held fiscally harmless. And 3, our teachers are going to be able to get the raises that they're expecting in Knox County. So I represent Knox County. I represent the 14th district, and that is my priority. So you're my priority. So I was able to negotiate Knox County, hold Knox County fiscally harmless, which then allows our teachers to get their raises, and that's the most important thing to me. So if anybody has questions or says otherwise, I was really clear in finance and really clear about why I supported it and then why I couldn't support it on the floor. We took care of those concerns, so I was able to vote yes. If I can help you with anything, you got any additional questions?
Anyways, I don't know if y'all are following that or if you care about it at all, but figured it was local and let y'all hear something about it.
Can help with agility. Get your eyes and hearing checked regularly. Changes in your hearing can affect your balance. To learn more, please talk to your doctor about steps you can take to.
You said it was too close, was a volume distorted or something? That's sad. I'll play it again later.
.com/falls.
This message was sponsored by United Healthcare and AARP Foundation.
Join the Smokies at America's friendliest ballpark on Wednesday, May 1st, and you'll enjoy a peanut-free night presented by Allergy, Asthma, and Sinus Center. All fans with peanut allergies will be able to enjoy a great game worry-free. It'll also be an all-you-can-eat Wednesday where you can enjoy all your ballpark favorites for one low price.
Grant. I found a hilarious graduation commercial from.
All right, sweet.
We don't have to go that long with it. It's all hilarious, but
Is it Will Ferrell?
there's this one kind of controversial part, so I'll probably have you just come in right before that.
Okay, good deal.
Okay.
What did he say about angels and the spirit guides on Coast to Coast?
And remember to lock the door too when Coast to Coast AM is on.
Beginning at 1 a.m. on Talk Radio 92.3 and AM 760.
This is Steve Vaskard of Wealth and Retirement Strategies. I help baby boomers create a dependable retirement plan. My mission statement is to teach you the wisdom of how money works for better stewardship, to potentially have more, to give more, and to leave more. If becoming a better steward of your wealth is important to you, and you need a dependable retirement plan as well, call for my video that explains all the ways I will help you. Please call 691-1211. That's 691-1211.
Weather from the FMT Insurance Studios of Talk Radio 92.3 and AM 760.
A wonderful Wednesday underway. We look for partly cloudy skies this afternoon. Most areas stay dry. Highs near 80. Lows tonight should be near 60 with a partly cloudy sky. Slight chance for a Thursday shower, mainly late in the day. Better chances for Thursday night and first part of Friday. Then we dry it out. Start the weekend on the dry side with highs in the 70s under mostly sunny skies. Check out Ripley's Aquarium of the Smokies and the brand new Savage Seas exhibit now open at Ripley's Aquarium of the Smokies. From the 6th Storm Team, I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Hinkin for the East Tennessee Weather Network.
It's 64 at Talk Radio 92.3 and AM 760.
Mr. Henry enters Facebook for the first time ever. And the Antichrist is born. The world is freezing over. No hope for anyone. Mr. Henry.
Summer is just around the corner, so kick things off right with the most highly anticipated event in town. James Madison High School graduation!
It's gonna be hot as hell.
100 grads, 400 family members, all in direct sunlight for 3+ hours.
Grandma might pass out.
It all kicks off with class speaker Amy Mitchell, who does not know how to work that mic.
Sometimes I wish that I could stay at this school.
Followed by valedictorian Oliver Klein, the smartest kid in class, giving the world's saltiest speech.
Some of us weren't considered cool or popular, and girls didn't notice me. But in a few years, boy oh boy, are things gonna change, and you're gonna wish you would have gotten with me. Congratulations to the class of 2018!
Yeah, that's a little bit right? Hey, welcome back to Real News. My name is Mr. Henry, student loan debt expert sitting beside us. We're transitioning now into interrelated topics, if you will. Jones sitting on the Crown Plaza call number. By the way, you have a question or concern or comment on anything we're talking about, 865-888-TALK. That's 865-888-8255. Jones subheading here says, Tenova personal billing horror story. Oh, no. What's on your mind?
Well, I had to have back surgery, and the surgeon told me that the portals and the shots were not going to do me any good. I had been on an ice bed here for 3 months prior to getting the surgery. Ice was the only thing, and anybody that knows me can tell you, I laid here and just screamed. And so he got me in. He had an opening and got me in. And I was in the hospital for 2.5 days at most. The bill was $149,000. Now let me say that the surgery went very well. I was out. I went in at 6. I was out and woke up at 9. By noon or 1 o'clock that day, the IV was out, and I was on what was considered nominal observational care. And so I thought that the bill was very extravagant. All they did was come and ask me what I wanted, if I wanted something to drink, and check my blood pressure 3 times a day. That was it. And, of course, I had someone bringing me hospital food. And they had not done the coding correctly. They hadn't gotten approval from Blue Cross of Illinois to do the surgery. So Blue Cross, it was the first time in my life with this was insurance that I'd had through my work where I retired, and kept it all through my retirement. And just allow me to say this, my monthly payment was supposed to be set in stone at $10 a month for my retirement insurance. When Obama announced his Obamacare and that these companies were going to have to start being responsible for people with, something conditions,
Yeah, pre-existing conditions, right, yeah.
They started the money grab. It jumped to 50, it jumped to 75, it jumped to 138, it jumped to 225, it ended up at $350 a month. Thank you, Obama. Thank you for the big lie. Getting back to this, the claim was denied, and I got the notice from my insurance company. They had denied the claim. Now, they paid the surgeon, and I paid him the deductible that I owed him that they didn't pay. And but the big bill, the $149,000, nearly $150,000 bill, they denied that in toto. And so I called. I was very upset. I called the hospital. I got no response. Never got a call back on it. Not one. Only a couple of times when people picked up the phone and I was able to try and talk to them. I got no satisfaction. So anyway, to make a short story long, the claim was denied 3 times. Eventually, Tenova told me that if they couldn't get my company to pay, it was up to me to pay the $149,000. Well, Roz can tell you how I live up here, and I just finally said, being a Christian, Jesus said, cast all your care upon him because he cares for you. And so I just told the Lord, I can't deal with this. And so the whole subject just disappeared for a year. And didn't hear back from anybody. And I figured, well, no news was good news. So finally, Tenova agreed to the $36,000 that Blue Cross said they were willing to pay. They had done a fourth, which was strange to me because they said they only did 3 appeals, but they did a fourth one from an independent doctor, that covers these issues, and he somehow got them to forgive the extraneous amount above the $36,000. With my deductible, I wound up owing $164. But if I hadn't had the Lord and this extra audit, I would be having to make payments on that.
John, let me ask, and comparing to the story that I've had given to me from this other person talking about a $1,000 quote to an $11,000 final bill, was there any sense of itemization for yours to the 30-something thousand you said that your insurance was willing to pay to the $149,000?
It was itemized, all right. They had put me in a semi-private room, and they had no one in the other bed. So what did they do? They charged my insurance company for me being in a double room.
Wow.
They charged me for the other person's place there. I mean, you talk about crooked. It was crooked, and it was crooked all the way.
Did they ever talk about sending this through to collections or taking you court for it or garnishing wages or any of that stuff? I mean,
I'm sure that it would have gotten there if they hadn't accepted my ability to pay them $25 a month for the rest of my life.
And hold on real quick, John. Say that real quick, student loan debt expert, what you just said to me.
Well, medical wages, it's very hard to get your wages garnished. But they would eventually, Joan, if they would have never fixed your problem, I'm glad the insurance didn't settled, but they would have put you on a payment plan.
Gotcha. But you said
based on your income.
But they can't garnish wages, you said, right?
Not on that. You'd have to appear for court.
Oh, I hear you.
They'd have to prove in court that you.
If you can imagine what someone like me went through Now, I spent 3 years up here, and I existed on food stamps and less than $2,500 a year, a total year. And that was other people, my friends who paid my bills, and charities that would bring me extra food and kerosene at times. CAC found me in here in early 2013, wrapped in plastic and blankets and covered in parasites, waiting to die. That's how poor I was. So to get this in the mail, I just had gotten on Social Security, and to get this in the mail was overwhelming. I've got an aneuritic aorta, and my ascending aorta is supposed to be at 2.4 centimeters. It's at 4.8, and so it's adamant that I don't get upset. And to get this bill, it almost, it just drove me up the wall.
Well, Joan, and as our guest just said, too, I cannot be happier, and I could not be happier that this worked out, but also that the providence of God finally shone through. We have just a minute left before we got to hit this break, but I want to ask the final follow-up question. From beginning to you going to the hospital to the very end of this whole thing was settled to you only owing $100-something for an actual copay, how long did that whole process take you?
Oh, my God, it took over a year and a half.
Year and a half, wow.
Like the sword of Damocles hanging over my head is what it felt like. But I just want everybody to have some commonsensical thing about the whole election process. If 80% of the Mexicans and whoever, God knows else, crossing the border were voting Republican, would we have a crisis, or would the Democrats be building a wall?
Well, yeah.
If the people that Bernie Sanders, the murderers, the rapists, the people, this is part of their punishment, that they lose the right to vote. That was incorporated into their punishment, that they would lose. They had taken definitely the rights of others. So to me, it's only just they lose their rights that they took away from others. If 80% of those were going to vote Republican, would Bernie be this anxious?
No, and this is my whole pitch, Joan. I think they're having a gross miscalculation that it's always going to be that way. I don't think it will. And pertaining to the Bernie,
let me ask this before we go: has Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, Bernie Sanders, any of the 20, and even Biden, how many of them have ever created one single damn job? And I'll hang up and listen to your answer. How many has the man that's in office now, how many has he created?
I hear you, Joan.
Did he create them just for white people? I'll hang up and listen to your answer.
I appreciate you, Joan. We always love talking to Joan. It's 9:49. I got to hit this break in a minute. Come back with Eddie and Linus. And look, ultimately, when it comes down to it, regarding Joan's answer, look, at the end of the day, the color that people are most concerned about is green. That's what Joan's talking about, right? I mean, it doesn't care. I don't matter if you're running. It doesn't matter if you're running blue, red. Doesn't matter if you're running some weird color in between. Obviously, I'm talking about a color affiliation for political parties here. Somebody's gonna take me out of my word here. The racist Mr. Henry, bro. What I'm saying is, if you're a blue Democrat, if you're a red Republican, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what people are ultimately concerned about is green. They want to know if they can live a sustainable, stable life. That's what they want to know. And whether you hate Trump or whether you love Trump, let's be honest, the economy's okay. Let's be honest, lowest African-American unemployment rate of all time, lowest Hispanic unemployment rate of all time, right? I mean, goodness gracious, man, I'm not sure. It could get better, sure. 9:50 in the morning, be right back.
Student loans.
Oh, man.
Problem is they take advantage of poor old lady Jones. The thing is that medical bills will disappear, because you could have jumped them and filed bankruptcy and they've been real screwed.
Yeah, oh yeah, no.
Before they forgave it.
And the thing I get worried about with Joan is, Joan's the type of person that, like, she has so much other stuff going on. The average person they're going to push these medical bills on, they just want it to be done. They just want it to be over with. If it's not causing crazy stress in their life, which it usually is, if you're a type of person that's working 9 to 5, you got kids you got to schlep around to practices all over the place. You have a wife or a husband, you got to get concerned about maintaining that relationship. You have a small group. There's so much other stuff going on. The last thing you want to deal with is a 2-hour phone call every single day with some representative from Tenova trying to figure out, bro, like, what do we? Because that's what it takes. That's what it takes. The appeal process after appeal process. Nobody has that time. If you do have that time, you don't want to deal with that continual stress in your life because you just got out of the hospital, you know?
Collection calls shouldn't last more than 15 minutes.
Yeah.
If you're going 30 at the most. We only that depends on what it's about. Is Eddie following along?
He calls in every now and then. Usually when Eddie calls, it's always interesting with Eddie. Eddie usually calls and totally changes the topic. It's always really interesting and very, very relevant. He does the same thing with Bob Yarborough. And I always enjoy him calling, but I very, very rarely will he call and it's about the topic that's at hand. So it's difficult to try and figure out when to set him in. He'll call probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 times a month. Linus calls usually at least once a week.
Who's Stimpy?
Stimpy? Stimpy is his real name is Michael, but we also have another guy called in. His name is Michael, and they both like to talk about the Recode Knoxville stuff. And it got so confusing for the audience members. It's primarily a guy named JB, who I don't know who that is. Stimpy, who I've met before, and Recode Michael, we call him now. I don't know who that. I've never met him before either. But it got so confusing for the audience to figure out who's Michael and who's the other Michael, so we just call him Ren and Stimpy now.
It's a Ren and Stimpy show.
Yeah, exactly. Apparently his nickname in high school was Stimpy, so it works. But
I just want to tell you that I think that you're amazing. Hey, congratulations to your corporation. Guess you being Swedish, boy, you need $1 billion Asians.
Hey, man, I'm telling you, 9:53 in the morning. Y'all think I'm playing the most mind-blowing podcast I think Sean and I will ever put together in our lives. We're still working these theories out in our mind. Give us about another month at most, and it deals with PewDiePie, and it deals with what's the best way to put this? Taking down the giant, if you will. I'm telling you, I know it's weird to draw those connections, but believe me, PewDiePie is doing something that. Whatever. I'll leave it there. That was PewDiePie's song, by the way, that brought this up. Hey, Linus and Eddie, I'm going to try and get to both of y'all before the show ends here, so probably about 2 to 3 minutes each here. Linus, $14 hospital scam. Oh, goodness.
No, it's not a hospital scam.
No?
It's a good scam, though.
All right. What's on your mind?
I was at the hospital, and I'd taken my wife for her PT, for her hip, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's in there working away in the little room, and I can't stand their music. And I was trying to read, so I decided I'd just go into the main hall right outside the door. I could watch her in there, and I could read my book, and I'd have a nice, peaceful afternoon. Well, I'm sitting there, and this well-dressed man sits down beside me. And he pulls out his cell phone, and he starts looking real worried and strikes up this conversation about how he's busted his tire on his Jeep, and the side of it's out, and all of his money and all of his wife's money together isn't quite enough to get a new tire, and he needs $14. I grew up in Lonsdale, and you can't do that and not develop a certain amount of street smarts.
Yeah, sure.
So I was listening to this guy for about a minute, and I said, look, Jack, my wife is in there, and she's exercising a $108,000 hip. I don't want to hear about $14. And I got up and I went back in there and I proceeded to read my book in there. And I looked through the window back behind me, and he already had another pigeon lined up. Now, if you do 5 of these guys in approximately, say, 2 hours, how much money have you made?
No, I know, Linus, and I don't mean to cut you off too early, man, because I got to get to Eddie, but it's the same thing when I hear people walking up to me outside of AutoZone or something. Hey, I just need $5 for a can of Fix-A-Flat. I got it broke down here. Yeah, cool, I'll walk in, I'll buy some Fix-A-Flat. No, I just need the cash for the Fix-A-Flat. All right, we got a little bit of a problem here, man, but I'll give you the last 30 seconds, buddy. Go ahead.
Basically, what's going on is this town is becoming a hotbed of this stuff. My brother watched a guy pull up to the gas station on Kingston Pike, I think it was, one day. Guy gets out of the gas station, and he's got a gas can on him. Get out of his car. He hit 5 people up in less than an hour for $5.
Linus, buddy,
You start looking at this from an hourly wage, these people are making more money than some doctors are.
I hear you, Linus. We appreciate hearing from you, man. We'll talk to you soon, all right?
Bye-bye.
There goes Linus. Hey, let's go to Eddie for the last call of the day here. Eddie, overall picture of where this is headed. I'll give you the last 2 minutes uninterrupted. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, and I hope you can have a follow-up comment, too, but you guys do a tremendous job, but the reasonable media of the entire country needs to point out where we are and what these new Democrat Party folks are advocating. And here it is. That lady touched on it 2 calls ago. Number one is open borders and all the misery, suffering, and loss and risk and loss of culture that forces all the country to accept, with hundreds of thousands coming here that we have to take care of and deal with. Secondly, prison voting, where killers, terrorists, rapists, child molesters get to help set public policy, which will be all Democrat. Okay. And by the way, as you know, I used to vote Democrat in the old days, but this new thing is just ridiculous. And then the third thing is acquisition of new debt, whether it's guaranteed income or paying off student loans. We can't even match the funding necessary as of next year, 2020, for Social Security anymore.
Right.
There's no trust fund. Okay. All right. So people need to realize that that's why we're all former Democrats, is of the madness and the totalitarianism and the destruction that Democrats are advocating publicly now. Usually they hide it. Now they're out there telling you what they're going to do. They're going to destroy the country and change everything about it to where we look like a miserable version of Venezuela or Eastern Europe.
Hey,
okay?
Eddie, I'll end
so
it.
I hope you... Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll leave you in the line for this. I'll end it with Sean Hannity talking about exactly what you're talking about. The last minute of the show, here's Sean Hannity basically putting into form what Eddie's saying. Go ahead, Eddie.
And I hope you can, as we get closer into this early election season, call out the differences and the exact things they're advocating. Thanks, guys.
I appreciate it. There goes Eddie. Listen to this.
Would take up most of the budget for 10 straight years. That one item. Gas and oil, remember, we're going to get rid of what is the lifeblood of our economy. The Green New Deal is $94+ trillion in 10 years. Letting felons vote, open borders, abolishing ICE, abolishing the Electoral College so New York, New Jersey, Illinois, and California pick all future presidents, stacking the Supreme Court with liberal activist judges, reparations, crippling the Second Amendment. They want a 70% top rate on individuals, marginal rate. 90% on corporations.
Hey, man, that's the America I want. There you go. 9:59, news, traffic, weather, all that. Glenn Beck coming up. We'll be back tomorrow doing it big.
Sorry, man. Last hour was kind of
No problem.
But, I mean, it was fun having you on.
Yeah.
You should come back and just chill and hang out.
Come chill, chit-chat any topic.
Yeah?
Whoever wants somebody in there.
Yeah, I figured, man, all y'all folks at the Smoky stuff, man. I mean, it's funny you mentioned the podcast over there, because seriously, that would be like the central hub of all this stuff we're talking about that people would desperately want to hear.
Sad thing is, Tyler does a podcast out of MOB.
What does that mean? Really?
Yeah, Merchant's Beer. He sits in the Park City Cigar.
Does he just interview people to come through talking about sports, or what does he do? Really? The guy's got a cool gig. Is he with Cumulus? Who is he with? Do you know?
Yes.
Okay. Right. I didn't really know if his was like just does he privately sell his stuff around, like he owns that show, or does he work specifically with Cumulus? I don't know how that works.
He works specifically with him.
I got you. Yeah.
Things on TV as well.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Big time, man. Big time. All right, Facebook. I love y'all. I'm gonna end it there. Tomorrow is Thursday. Let me see. What's today? I got nothing lined up for tomorrow. Conspiracy Theory Thursday. I do next week have the author of Angels Don't Play This Harp talking about the harp facility. Where's that, in Alaska? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Should be a great topic, though. A couple weeks from there, we have the guy from Public Enemy talking about CIA involvement in the rap game. That should be interesting. So for tomorrow, I'm not sure what I want to go on for Conspiracy Theory Thursday. We'll figure it out, though. Either way, y'all the best. Love y'all. As always, see you soon.